Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. We are off and rolling on another work week. It is a Monday edition. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are simulcast on Big 12 Studios, the Big 12 Fast channel, via Roku, Amazon Prime, DirecTV, YouTube, and many, many other spots. We are brought to you, the full-time fan, by our friends at Modelo. This is my friend, Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. That's our friend over there, producer Taman. T-Chains, a lot of college football to get to. You look very polished today.
Thank you. I love that jacket. My wife has the same one. I love it. How many animals did it die to be skinned for you to have a nice, comfortable hood there?
We didn't know if the heat would be cranked up in here this morning because it is chilly across Big 12 Nation. Now it's in the 60s in Tempe and Tucson, and it's 59 in Orlando this morning. But it's 43 even down in Houston. It's 38 degrees right now in Dallas. I don't leave my house until it hits 37.
Clearly.
But I pick up my
Thanks for the weather update, by the way.
You're welcome. I pick up my dog sled at 3 today.
You look like you're doing the show live from the Costco freezer section.
There's a sequel I'll be starring in of The Revenant coming out soon. So
they wish they had a jacket like that in The Revenant.
Did you see that movie?
Dude had to kill a bear in order to get a jacket.
That bear scene, that was something else.
I mean, who hasn't killed a bear with their bare hands?
It's an all-timer.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we haven't really been on the same page, I'd say, lately in terms of the Big 12 Studios dress code because you look fantastic.
Thank you.
And I can't even roast you today.
Wow, I figured this shirt I was primed for the roast.
No, man, you look pretty put together, and I'm slacking today. Now, I will say your shirt's working overtime today, trying to contain those guns, okay? I just hope we can handle your I only lift on arm days energy today because those babies are out and about. I like it. You got the Jordans on, looking really good. They say I'm hip, I'm cool. The pants scream Sam's Club membership, but everything else is very put together. We had a wild weekend that we'll touch on later. We've got to get to our Big 12 Whiparound. There was some college football games this weekend. We will let Taman take the bull by the horns. We'll put a minute on the clock for each and every Big 12 game that we'll be breaking down at length. But here's a rapid-fire edition of what happened this weekend in the Big 12.
Colorado at West Virginia.
His microphone is on. Colorado, West Virginia. West Virginia got the win. It wasn't easy. It was a grinder, 29-22. A battle of two freshman quarterbacks with Juju Lewis starting for Colorado. But Scotty Fox got the better of them. West Virginia built a 16-3 lead late in the second quarter. They had a 69-yard touchdown catch by Dior Hubbard that set up a 3-yard touchdown from the freshman quarterback, Scotty Fox Jr. Colorado rallied. They never took the lead, but they made it close in the end. West Virginia hangs on for the dub.
Yeah, West Virginia nearly had a pump block for touchdown. Instead, it's a pump block for safety in this one. Colorado was sacked 7 times, and you mentioned Julian Lewis making his first start for Colorado. Certainly some reason for optimism with him as he played well at times, but certainly played like a freshman, and the more experienced quote-unquote freshman here got the better of the two. Also, really liked how West Virginia used linebacker turned running back Curtis Jones. He was an effective short yardage running back with 2 touchdowns in this one.
Curtis Jones? He's a sharpshooter for the Iowa State Cyclones men's basketball team.
It's a different one, Curtis Jones Jr.
We've got multiple Curtis Joneses.
Cujo.
In the Big 12, balling out.
All right, guys, Houston at UCF.
This was the Friday night space game. First ever space game loss for UCF. Houston wins it 30-27. They tied it up in the third quarter. Dean Connors had a 9-yard touchdown reception. Then they engineered just a complete clock-eating 15-play, 62-yard drive late in the fourth quarter. They put through a 22-yard field goal with 2:31, and then the Houston defense came up with an end-zone interception with 11 seconds to go to seal it for the Cougars.
Yeah, it's rare to win a football game in which you turn it over 4 times and are -2 in the turnover ratio, the differential, but Houston was 8 of 16 on third down. They also had 210 total rushing yards and had that clutch 15-play drive that allowed Houston to go in for the winning field goal. Ethan Sanchez kicked it in from 22, and that's the game sealer. Also, UCF's kicker hit from 54 in this game. Ruelas has hit from 50 a couple of times this season.
All right, guys.
Rare, by the way, for a team to lose the turnover margin, like you said, especially on the road in this conference, and still win a football game.
Iowa State at TCU.
Iowa State gets the 20-17 win in Fort Worth. They were down 17-6 early in the fourth quarter. Then they go on an 11-play, 75-yard drive, capped off by a 1-yard touchdown plunge by Carson Hansen, the running back. 2 minutes later, a 79-yard punt return for a touchdown by Aiden Flora flipped the lead. Iowa State steals one at TCU. A huge win for the Cyclones. It snaps a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, TCU was in complete control of this game. As you mentioned, they were up 17-12 in the fourth quarter. Then they gave up that punt return for touchdown by Flora. And I thought the play of the game was when Jeremy Payne put the ball on the turf. He had a 28-yard run, and Payne puts the ball on the turf after a 28-yard carry. Trey Bell recovers. Bell also had an INT in this game as well. State is able to take more than 4 minutes of clock off and converted a 3rd and 6 and a 4th and 1. So TCU got the ball back with about 30 seconds left. But, yeah, it was the fumble after the big run by Jeremy Payne that basically cost them down the stretch of this football game.
And we're watching the highlights on Big 12 Studios. If you're watching us via the Big 12 Fast channel, you're seeing that as well. That first Iowa State touchdown, there was 8 minutes and change on the clock. They're down 17-6. And if you're TCU, you never felt like the game was in question. Then the punt return happened with like 6:15 on the clock. So, I mean, a 2-minute, 14-point scoring barrage by the Cyclones to get the win. Really impressive.
All right, this should be an interesting. Kansas at Arizona.
Yes, it should. Arizona gets the win 24-20. So KU outgains Arizona 369-323. Jalen Daniels gets sacked a ton. But there was some questionable decision-making from the KU coaching staff down the stretch that I know Ari is chomping at the bit to get to, so you take it away.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas was in complete control of this game. I know that they were never really up by multiple scores at any point, but I mean, it felt like the entire game they were just in control. They were up 17-14 and then 20-14 in the fourth quarter. But just a mix of self-inflicted wounds and missed turnovers and conservative coaching cost Kansas in this game. Kansas, once again, playing not to lose in certain moments throughout this game, but certainly at the end with a 4th and 2, you get 2 yards and you can win the football game as opposed to kicking the field goal, which Kansas opted to do. Now, they missed the field goal. It was the first missed field goal for Kansas all year, but even had they made it, they still would have only been up by 6 at 23-17. And as it turns out, Arizona went ahead for the go-ahead touchdown anyways from Quincy Craig. So even if they had made the field goal in that moment, you know, they probably still, their defense, who knows, might have given up that late scoring drive. But yeah, Kansas's defense balled out until it didn't. And once again, you've got a coach who just plays not to lose.
Yeah, in the last 2 seasons, Kansas is reinventing ways to lose football games. I mean, this is they're up 20-7 in the second quarter. They miss a 30-yard field goal with 2:43 left. And I think if you make that field goal, look, I would have gone for it. I'm with you. But if you make that field goal and you force Arizona to go down and score a touchdown, I just think the momentum feels so much different if it's a 3-point game versus if it's a 6-point game for the KU defense. But again, man, the Hawks let one slip away.
Well, and another, I mean, it wasn't just the 4th and 2 decision. Early in the fourth quarter, they had a 3rd and 5, and they go down the field for Emmanuel Henderson. I loved the aggressive play calling. But then you follow that up on the Arizona side of the field with a delay of game penalty that you take in order to punt the football back to them, as opposed to it's 4th and 5 from the Arizona 40. Just go for it. You've got a 6th-year quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like just the conservative playing not to lose consistency across the board. It's maddening from a Kansas fan's perspective.
All right, final one, guys. The big one of the weekend, BYU at Texas Tech.
BYU and Texas Tech. It was at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time in front of a rowdy, nationally televised college game day crowd. Texas Tech's defense, really the big story here. They win it 29-7 over BYU, a 22-point margin. They completely locked BYU out of the end zone for 3 quarters. They forced 2 takeaways, both by Jacob Rodriguez. They booted through a billion field goals, and I think that, can't remember if it was Reese Davis or Chris Fowler, but one of those two guys said it best when they brought up Texas Tech's roster. They said everybody talks about Texas Tech and their roster construction and how they're just buying players. This wouldn't even be a top 10 financial roster in the country. They are winning more than just because of buying their players. It's so much more than that. I'm glad that they highlighted that on national television.
Yeah, Jacob Rodriguez is a dude. He absolutely destroyed this game. 14 tackles, a tackle for loss, a fumble recovery, and an INT. Get that dude to New York. Major special teams issues for BYU. They had the muffed punt by Parker Kingston early in this game, a shaked punt, missed field goal, and bad decision to run the ball out late in the game by Hayden. And I would say there's one concern we got to get to with Texas Tech, though. I will say Texas Tech is absolutely destroying very good teams, and this is exactly what the Big 12 needed and was looking for, a top dog measuring stick, if you will, for the rest of the conference. But, I mean, think about it. Aside from having Baron Morton miss the Arizona State game, in which one of the few games this year that Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson played, aside from that, they have just blown everybody out. I mean, Utah, that's a legit top 15 team. They blew them out. Now another one in BYU, they blow them out as well. And this game wasn't even as close as the score might indicate. Just 67 yards rushing for a BYU rushing attack. That's number 1 in the Big 12. So a dominant effort, really, from Texas Tech. But one flaw I see in Tech that continues to be an issue that we'll have to dive into.
I want to hear it now. We've got some time.
All right.
Let's catch our breath.
Well, so I think the first thing on this is not the flaw. We'll get to that.
Okay.
First thing on this is you look at what's happening in the ACC. Big picture. Okay? So in the first round of CFP, in the CFP release, rankings release, I can talk, Virginia and Louisville were the top 2 ACC teams. Both went down to subpar teams. So the ACC is up for grabs. Pitt is going to be the site now this week of game day as Pitt plays Notre Dame. But like the conference, the ACC is up for grabs. They're going to get the one bid that's going to be the automatic bid from their conference champ. Mm-hmm. Okay. The Big Ten, I mean, Washington was in the conversation. They fall at Wisconsin. So, I mean, there continues to be a lot of parity across these other leagues, whereas the Big 12 has a very good top 3. And I think Texas Tech showed that. Like, they're at the top dog of this conference. BYU is still right there. I think we'll see what happens with BYU moving forward. But, I mean, this just looked more to do with what Texas Tech's able to do defensively than anything else. And then, I mean, Utah is still very much the conversation. So, I think the Big 12 right now sitting with 3 teams potentially as playoff teams. I'm not saying that they're going to get 3 teams or it's even likely for them to get 3 teams, but I'd say 2 teams is good, and they've got 3 teams at this point competing for 2 spots. So, and if Tech and BYU play again, you know, maybe Tech beats them in the Big 12 championship game and that knocks BYU out, but would Utah then be in line for a spot despite a loss to BYU? We'll see.
Right.
But just the way that this thing is shaking out, the ACC is absolutely atrocious. Such a huge distance between them and the Big 12. And so the Big 12 is right there. It's the 3rd best conference. They're proving on a national level how top-heavy they are this year, which is really, really good because that gives them the litmus test, the measuring stick for the rest of the conference.
And the AP Top 25 that came out yesterday, so Texas Tech actually moved up a spot to climb to number 8. Remember, they were number 8 in the initial college football playoff rankings. All 3 of the big 3, if you will, in the Big 12 have been ranked lower in the AP Top 25 than that first initial college football playoff rankings. So I carry more weight in terms of what the college football playoff week 2 rankings will look like coming out tomorrow. With Texas Tech now at number 8, BYU only fell 4 spots to number 12. So if they fall 3 or 4, maybe even 5 spots in the college football playoff rankings, they're still going to be in the top 12. Utah climbed 2 spots in the AP to number 15. They were number 17 in the AP Top 25. They were number 13 in the College Football Playoff Committee's eyes. So that's a big discrepancy and one of the larger discrepancies in the entire country. So this is the first domino effect to kind of paint that picture of what you're talking about with BYU's only loss being to Texas Tech. They need to win out the rest of the regular season. Utah needs to win out the rest of the regular season. And if Texas Tech takes care of business, you have the perfect storm of 3 teams that are going to be probably in the top 10, definitely in the top 12, going into that championship Saturday in the Big 12 championship game.
And the one team we haven't talked about yet is Cincinnati, who will play BYU following BYU's bye this week.
Yep.
So, no, BYU plays TCU this week. Is that right? I believe Cincinnati and BYU play in week 13, week 12 being next week.
Correct.
I'd committed the schedule to memory, and now I...
Yeah, BYU has TCU at home, and then they play at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is the team that can really mess this whole thing up.
They're the potential fly in the ointment here, but you could also argue that Cincinnati's very much in that top-heavy conversation as well. Just had that one brutal loss to Utah in which they looked like a second-tier team. All right, the major flaw with Texas Tech, potential issue here. Texas Tech had 5 field goals on Saturday. Mm-hmm. They continue to have red zone scoring issues. On the season, Texas Tech has 29 touchdowns on 54 red zone drives, so 53.7% touchdown rate. They are not finishing drives enough in the red zone with touchdowns. Huge problem because you get late into the season, you're playing in the playoff, you've got to finish those drives off against really good teams. Like in other potential opponents, 29 points may not be enough. And, I mean, they're still scoring in the red zone at a 90% rate, so at least they've got the kicker that has the chops in order to finish those drives off. They're still scoring at an 88.9% rate, but and getting to the red zone a ton too. But it's the 29 for 54 scoring touchdowns that has me concerned.
And I think that's a great point because they've been probably the best team in the country 20-20. They lead the nation in explosive plays, but if they don't get explosive touchdowns, then they seem to be settling for 3 in the red zone. And Ben Golan from Red Raider Sports Network covers Texas Tech. We'll have more on that coming up next. He is our Hour 1 guest here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. You're listening to us exclusively on TuneIn. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by our good friends at Modelo. The Modelos were pouring in Lubbock, Texas over the weekend. Texas Tech gets the 29-7 win in front of a college game day crowd in Lubbock over BYU, the first top 10 matchup in the Big 12 since 2021. And we welcome in Ben Golan, who covers football and basketball recruiting for Red Raider Sports, part of the On3 Sports and Rivals Network. Hey, Ben, what's up?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Man, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Want to get to, what this win meant from a recruiting standpoint, but before we do that, just what were your top two takeaways when you think about what Texas Tech did on Saturday in that win over BYU?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously just had a tremendous performance on a national scale. I think Lubbock has been waiting for that moment for, many years, and it was kind of the defense was as legit as they've been all season, holding BYU to 7 points and just 67 rushing yards. And then, I just think the offense, I know you mentioned the red zone struggles earlier, but, I think they just did enough. And you can lean on the defense. I think it's hard for Texas Tech fans to kind of, think that way because the defense has been bad for so long. But you look at like an Ohio State or an Indiana, like it's okay to win with defense. And I think Texas Tech has proven it can do that.
Ben, were you in the stadium? What was the atmosphere and environment like?
Yeah, I was. It was, just as insane as you would imagine. Students camping out since the previous Sunday and, a complete sellout. I think, like I mentioned, Texas Tech has been waiting for this moment. And so with college game day and all of the things really in town, I think Lubbock really rose up and made it a really good home field environment. Even, Joey McGuire mentioned that in the post game that the crowd, was responsible for a couple of BYU penalties. So, I think, the fan base really showed up as they should for, a top 10 team.
Texas Tech's defense was incredible. I mean, they held BYU on first downs to 2.2 yards per rush. They held BYU to 27% conversion rate on third downs, 3 for 14. What was the most impressive part? And you can't say Jacob Rodriguez. Let's take him out of the equation because we know how good he is. So outside of just his performance, collectively, what stood out to you?
Yeah, and I think I wrote about this yesterday in my column where I write about 3 things that stood out from each game and 3 things that maybe didn't go well. But honestly, it was every single level of the defense really just played well. You can't point at any. The D-line, really shut down the BYU run. The linebackers, including Jacob Rodriguez, were just all over the field. And then the secondary was blanketing the BYU receivers. And so I think a lot of credit goes to Shieldwood, the defensive coordinator. He, has been successful everywhere he's been, at Troy, at Tulane, at Houston last year, and then obviously this year at Texas Tech. I think he's just coaching at a really high level and motivating this group at a really high level, and they're just playing really, really well.
Talk with Ben Golan from RedRaidersports.com. All right, you mentioned that you heard us talking about, the red zone woes, which certainly were a part of this game. Now, didn't bother them too much because it was still a blowout. And maybe it won't come back to bite them because their defense is that good, but 29 of 54 in the season, scoring touchdowns in the red zone, 54%. What do you think the issues are?
Yeah, I think drops maybe is a big one. You think of the sequence right before halftime where Texas Tech decides to go for it on 4th down and doesn't score there. They had a draw. Coy Aiken was wide open earlier. I think, they missed that one. And then on 4th down to Terrence Carter, I think that was covered pretty well. But I think maybe some receivers making some plays there. I think, maybe Mac Leftwich needs to rely more on the running game in certain situations. You saw some, wildcat snaps there to Cameron Dickey that didn't really go, very far in the red zone. It's just kind of maybe a collective issue that they have got to figure out, because even thinking back to the win over Houston earlier this year, I think they settled for 7 field goal attempts in that game and made 5 of them. And so it's good to have a good kicker, but I think you guys nailed it. It's really important to, have to finish those drives with touchdowns. And it's really just kind of a collective thing. Everyone's just got to be better because the offense overall is really good statistically. And, just watching the game, they're moving the ball at will, and then once they get down there, they really kind of seem to struggle. And the talent is there. I think the coaching is really good, and so it's just something they're going to have to figure out.
Ben, is Jacob Rodriguez the best linebacker, the best defensive player you've ever seen at Texas Tech?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in the argument. You think like Tyree Wilson a couple of years ago, was I think either second in the nation in pressures. He's up there. I think Jordan Brooks in 2019, he's way up there. But yeah, I mean, what Jacob Rodriguez is doing every week is just unbelievable with the forcing turnovers and just being all over the field. And he's just such a great story as well. And so Joey McGuire has mentioned this a few times as far as like the Heisman race. The quarterbacks at Indiana, Ohio State, and A&M definitely deserve to be up there with their teams undefeated. But you look around the country and who's playing at a higher level than Jacob Rodriguez is at their position. And so, he's just unbelievable. And then, of course, you look at his interception on Saturday. I think Lee Hunter has a sack, and Bear Bachmeier breaks out of it and throws it up. And then, of course, Jacob Rodriguez comes down with it, and the whole stadium erupts into Heisman chants. And so he's really stepping up and leading this defense, and he's just doing a really good job.
It's amazing. This game was played on the exact 4th anniversary of the hiring of Joey McGuire. I'm just curious for you to add some of that context and just how far this program has come under him in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, they've gone a long ways. Obviously, when he was hired, he was known for, having those recruiting connections across Texas. And he really, started that right away, recruiting at a high level, a higher level than Texas Tech was used to. And then he's, had a lot of success, honestly, the first 3 years making bowl games. That's a big turnaround from where the program was under Matt Wells and even the last few years of Cliff Kingsbury. And then it's just gone to a new level this year with the, portal class, with kind of his recruits growing up a little bit into their 3rd and 4th year. And so, he made a couple of really good coordinator hires. I think he's just been the perfect guy at the top to kind of lead this thing. And as you guys know, he develops relationships like no other. And so the program has come a long way, but I don't think they're done. You look at what they're doing in recruiting now, and it's, even gone up to a higher level with committing some of these 5-star prospects. And so I expect Texas Tech to, remain a contender in the Big 12 for the foreseeable future.
Talking with Ben Golan, who covers football and basketball recruiting for Red Raider Sports, part of the On3 and Rivals Network at RedRaidersports.com. Texas Tech had a ton of recruits at this game, taking in the college game day environment, taking in the win for the Red Raiders. Where is Texas Tech at when it comes to recruiting for 2026 and 2027, and what did this win do for those potential signees?
Yeah, it was huge. I think over 30 or 40 prospects in town that they've already offered. So anytime you can get, that amount of recruits out there, it's a big deal. And as far as 2026, I think they're mostly done with the class. They have commits from guys like Felix Ojo, 5-star, and Chase Campbell is a high 4-star. And, they maybe a spot or two left. I would expect them to hold that back for the transfer portal at this point. 2027, they currently have the number 1 rated class in the country. Kavian Bryant, the top quarterback in the country, was in Lubbock this weekend. Kadrian Redmond, one of the top defensive linemen from DeSoto, was also in town. And then Jalen Brewster, a 5-star defensive lineman from Cedar Hill, was also there. They had a ton of other top, 4 or 5-star guys from the 2027 class. I think, it's going to be tough to be, remain number 1, obviously, with some of these programs that are going to compete for that spot. But, I think Texas Tech can remain solidly in that top 5 to 10 area as far as the rankings, and probably sign their best class of all time the way it's going right now.
Yeah, I think that, it should be noted that outside of this matchup on the field, this was also a matchup of the top 2 Big 12 schools in terms of the 2026 recruiting classes, both in the top 25 with Texas Tech at number 17 and BYU at number 22.
Yeah, no doubt. BYU, they're also investing heavily and doing a good job, just like Texas Tech is. I think these are two programs that have kind of seen the void at the top of the conference and, kind of said, why not us? And so credit to BYU, for doing what they're doing. And obviously Texas Tech is just looking to elevate and take that next step too.
Yeah, that was huge. Massive win for Texas Tech on Saturday. Ben Golan from Red Raider Sports Network with us here on Big 12 today. Ben, we appreciate your time, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Have a good day. Ben Golan from Red Raider Sports Network covers Texas Tech football, Texas Tech football and basketball recruiting for Red Raider Sports, part of the On3 and Rivals Network. A dominant win for Texas Tech on Saturday, wearing those new icy whites from the Patrick Mahomes line on Saturday. What was your number one takeaway from this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's just defensively, I mean, this is the best defense in the country because, I mean, whatever we can look at the season-long statistics and, some defenses may have less yardage or points or whatever, but holding a BYU offense that has lived running the football to 67 yards total. It was a dominant effort. I knew going in, I'm assuming McGuire's line one in this game was to stop the run. And, I mean, to do it as effectively as they did it, their defensive line is so good, and it frees up the linebackers, and that's where Jacob Rodriguez is having such a good year. Ben Roberts is having such a good year. Like, things are a lot easier as a linebacker when there's just not enough traffic in front of you that causes you to miss tackles in those lanes. And they just do such a good job of closing out lanes and allowing linebackers to flow freely to those lanes in order to blow up ball carriers. So it's impressive. It's a defense that travels. And look, I mean, this team, we talk a lot about the blue chip ratio. And, no team has won a national championship in college football with less than 50% of the roster being 4 or 5 star recruits. Every team that's won it has had that blue chip ratio, and Texas Tech is not there. But the bottom line of that stat is it's about NFL talent, right? Like, at the end of the day, how much NFL talent do you have on your roster? And if you have more NFL talent than the other teams, you're going to win. Texas Tech has a lot of NFL talent.
Yeah.
They've got NFL talent at their pass rushers. I mean, they've got Romello Height and David Bailey. Those are 2 NFL players. Jacob Rodriguez is an NFL linebacker. They've got a secondary. Polak is a NFL player. Wisniewski is an NFL. So, like, at the end of the day, like, that's all that's about. So there's no reason that Texas Tech can't not only get to the playoff, but win playoff games as you project this thing out because of that. They have a lot of NFL talent that will take you very far.
I mean, every single one of their defensive starters will get a look in the NFL. And over half of them will get drafted.
Like, in 5 to 10 years, we'll look and be like, wow, yeah, that defense was something special.
Yep.
Look at all these guys and how productive NFL careers they all had.
And the 2 teams that are up there in college football that don't hit that blue chip ratio, Texas Tech and Indiana. And if you gave me Texas Tech and Indiana against the field, I mean, that's kind of a coin flip for me with how good those 2 teams have looked so far in a wide open year. And Texas Tech held L.J. Martin to 10 carries. He had 35 yards, a season low. Bear Bachmeier had 12 yards rushing on 11 attempts. And Texas Tech's defense, they didn't have a bunch of flashy plays outside of the Jacob Rodriguez interception, which was incredible. But they only had 1 sack in the game. They had 4 tackles for loss. Like, BYU's defense actually had more negative plays, more sacks, more TFLs. Texas Tech's defense was just all over the field. And I think you summarized it best, and there was just no room to operate because of their sideline-to-sideline speed, because of how disciplined and assignment sound they are. It's just like pulling teeth to try and pick up first downs against that defense.
And the fact they get this dominating win, the culmination of just a huge weekend in Lubbock and for Texas Tech on the 4th anniversary of the hiring of Joey McGuire. Was hired on November 8th, 2021. 4 years later, November 8th, 2025, and they're hosting game day, blowing out an top 10 BYU team as a top 10 Texas Tech team. It's could not have been more perfect for a guy in McGuire who I thought to this season was very underrated. right? Because Tech fans were waiting for a season like this. Texas Tech has never won a Big 12 championship. So, like, that's the first line they've got to cross off. Big 12 championship.
Yep.
Put a check mark next to that. And the rest, we'll see what happens. But the program that McGuire is building through the help of Kirby Hocutt, the administration, and, of course, Cody Campbell and the boosters, it's magical right now. And is an exciting time to be a Texas Tech fan, both for basketball and football, what they're doing. But certainly in this state, the great state of Texas, it's all about football, and Texas Tech looks every bit the part of a national championship contender.
Lubbock was rocking on Saturday. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Coming up next, we take a look at the Big 12 hierarchy. Week 11 edition, you'll hear from Coach Joey McGuire, KU's Lance Leipold on his decision to kick a field goal on 4th and 2, Matt Campbell at Iowa State, and Dion. What is going on in Colorado? You'll hear from those guys after the break. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league, Big 12 Radio. We were just talking with Ben Golan from Red Raider Sports Network. If you missed it, you can always go back and listen via Apple Podcast, Spotify, TuneIn on demand. We're streaming live on Big12Studios.com. Encourage you to join the chat. We'll answer your questions later on during the show. We're brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. Texas Tech takes down BYU this weekend 29-7, which means Texas Tech is now the only team in college football with 2 wins this season over teams ranked in the top 15 of the initial college football playoff. And both of those wins came by at least 20 points. That's the thing. Like, there's nobody in the country that has better wins than Texas Tech. Not an Ohio State, not a Oregon, not a Indiana, not a Texas A&M. They're the only team in the country with 2 wins over top 15 teams.
Well, and crazy things happen in November, as we talked about last week. You know, you're going to have wild upsets. I mean, Louisville's ranked in the top 15 of the first college ball playoff rankings, and they lose to Cal. So, I mean, crazy things happen. Indiana had to survive late against a Penn State team that's now 3-6. Yeah. And all anybody can talk about is how good Indiana is and how crazy that win was. And it was, but it's still a bad Penn State team.
Right.
So, I mean, Texas Tech, will they be in the top 5 this week? Should they be? Yes. Will they be? I don't know. But clearly the College Football Playoff Committee, and we can applaud them for this, is doing a better job of figuring out, like, the Big 12 is clearly the third best conference, and the ACC is so distant from the top 3. And the Big 12 has 3 legitimate college football playoff contenders. And that was my huge takeaway from this weekend. Yeah, I mean, Texas Tech made BYU look really bad, but BYU has made a lot of teams look bad this year. I mean, this was the first time all year that Bear Bachmeier looked like a freshman.
Yeah.
Let's credit Texas Tech's defense for doing that.
Right.
And Sheil Wood for coming up with a really good game plan and then having the dudes to back it up. So, you know, Utah was on the bye. We'll see what they do in terms of rebounding from their bye week. But 3 teams, and we'll see where they're ranked. I would imagine they'll all move up in the CFP rankings this week. And we'll go, I mean, other than BYU probably will move down maybe to 10 or beyond. But, yeah, I mean, it's clearly the Big 12 has turned a corner this year in terms of its national perspective and perception, which is huge.
And I think that's big, is the perception after this loss seems to be centered around how dominant Texas Tech is. That, hey, this Texas Tech team is very legit. This is a national championship contender versus, oh, well, BYU's been overrated all year. Haven't heard a peep of that. It's been more about Texas Tech. Here's what their head coach, Joey McGuire, this was his message to the nation with their win over BYU.
Our defense has played at a really high level all year long. One thing that I talked to them is, dominate up front. We wanted to stop the run. I mean, that's the number 1 running back in the Big 12 yardage-wise, LJ. And I mean, I love LJ. And that's the number 1 running back. And then that quarterback has been electric with his feet. And they have a really good offensive line. So we stopped the run, and when you do that, you got a chance to rush the passer. But then the other thing we did, we had 1 on special teams, and then we had 2 on defense. We took 3. Y'all know how much I like that. And I told the defense, I said, guys, if we'll go take 3 turnovers, go take it. Not what the offense does, but in the turnover margin, but what we do as a defense, and we stop the run, we'll win the game. And they came out and they did it at a high level. I was really proud of our guys. And then the other thing, you've seen it the last 2 weeks, Cole Wisniewski is an elite tackler. And we always talk about making people drive the field against our defense. Get the ball down and make them drive the field. I thought he did a phenomenal job tackling today.
And Cole Wisniewski is a transfer from North Dakota State, where he was an FCS All-American. A lot of schools wanted him, but nobody wanted him more than Texas Tech. And he is a tremendous tackler. And Jacob Rodriguez is the best defensive player I've seen at Texas Tech since Zach Thomas. He is the second coming of Zach Thomas, who shattered a bunch of Texas Tech records back in the mid-'90s, For Texas Tech, it was their fewest points allowed against an AP top 10 team since they beat number 8 Texas A&M 14-7 October 7th, 1995. Zach Thomas was the linebacker for that Red Raiders team. He went on to play over 13 years in the NFL and was a 7-time Pro Bowler. He's in the NFL Hall of Fame, was 5 times All-Pro. Like Jacob Rodriguez he's in that camp.
Yeah, I think it's hard to disagree with you there, but Zach Thomas is the measuring stick, certainly for Texas Tech on defense. And yeah, he's in Pro Football Hall of Famer, so it doesn't get much bigger than that. He's an iconic player in the history of Texas Tech, and it's hard not to compare what Jacob Rodriguez is doing this season and over the course of his career to that of Zach Thomas. Jacob Rodriguez has always been an elite player, and it's probably even more apparent how elite he's been through his production this season because, when kept clean, he is able to clean it all up. But in years past, they just haven't had the D-line that keeps him clean. And so now when you look at some of the previous years where he's played with inferior defensive lines relative to what they're dealing with this year, James, it's huge. It shows you how good he was despite not having great defensive lines to play in front of him. A linebacker is only as good as the defensive line in front of him, and they've been bad. Now we're seeing how good he could be when they have a good defensive front, an elite defensive front, if you will. And I like, you just heard Joey McGuire talk about the tackling from Wisniewski, and that's the theme for this team. Like, the number one thing that this defense does is tackle. They do not miss tackles. And it probably would make Texas Tech fans laugh to hear that because of how poorly of a tackling team. Like, that has been a weakness. We talk about the defense overall for Texas Tech consistently being a weakness. It's been the tackling, it feels like, year over year, that's just bad. And, like, that's it. If you as a running back get past that first line, the defensive line, then the linebackers are going to clean it up. And if somehow you get past that second line, then your safeties are going to clean it up. Your corners are going to clean it up. They are just sure tacklers. They're guys that like contact. Wisniewski, Pollock, name them all. Those are guys who do not shy away from it, and it's the reason I think it affects everything else. Like, Parker Kingston had the muffed punt early in this game, but beyond that, like the shanked punt, missed field goal, like they just put the screws to you and add pressure that I think gets you thinking about we've got to be perfect here, and I think that's what led to BYU, which normally has good special teams, really being poor on special teams in this game.
And their other corner on the opposite side of Bryce Pollock is Dante Balfour, who's a transfer from Charlotte, but he was a highly touted recruit out of high school, started at North Carolina. They had a coaching change. He spends 1 year at Charlotte. He's a really good player on a really bad team, but he slipped under the radar because Charlotte was a complete mess, and he ends up at Texas Tech, and he's now starting on the other side of the field. And Jacob Rodriguez, there's a reason he was the preseason Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. I think the coaches know how dominant he was coming into this season. He still had like 120 tackles last year, won games for Texas Tech. Remember on the road he had that punch out at Arizona. He had an interception that sealed a win late against Oklahoma State last year. So he's been doing this. Now he's just doing it on a national stage. He's also very smart, incredibly intelligent, not just because he was a high school quarterback and spent 2 years at Virginia playing quarterback before he transferred, but also just his intelligence level and his awareness. This is what he said about the conference bias against the Big 12.
Conference bias, especially in the Big 12. I think there's so many good football teams that are getting passed up on, and just because of the logo that they play for. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then next year with the Pac-12 being the Pac-12, I think there's going to be a lot of people looking down on it, and just all across the board, I think there's definitely a conference bias.
Preach, Jacob Rodriguez. Huge win for Texas Tech over BYU. All right, let's pivot over to the Kansas-Arizona game. So Kansas and Arizona was a wild one. It felt like Kansas controlled this football game. KU's up 20-17. There's less than 3 minutes to go. They march down the field. They've got 4th and 2. KU misses a 30-yard field goal and then immediately surrendered an 80-yard drive that was capped off by a 24-yard touchdown run by Quincy Craig with 39 seconds to go for Arizona. Arizona wins the game 24-20. All the analytics there were multiple situations in this game where Kansas would either punt or settle for a field goal. And all the analytics say, go for it, go for it, go for it. Lance Leipold going against the grain, super conservative, but he addressed it after the game about his decision to kick it on 4th and 2.
Obviously elected to kick a field goal thinking that, they had scored the half, that it would take a touchdown to beat us. Obviously that can be scrutinized as far as going forward. We couldn't put Jalen back in the game. We couldn't buy him back in the game with a timeout, and we just felt that putting one of the other guys in that situation was better to kick the field goal. Ultimately, I make that decision, and understand that that's one that can be scrutinized pretty highly. So I thought our guys played hard. I thought we had flashes, but I think both teams played that way today. So if Jalen was in the game, we were going for it. And then when they stopped it and they took him out, and I needed a clarification on the rule. But since the officials took him out by that, it's not like if the helmet comes off, we can use a timeout to put him back in the game. With an injury, we could not. So it was, we were going to have to put a different quarterback in, and talking with Z, and we made the decision to kick the field goal and make a touchdown beat us. And unfortunately, Leif missed his first. And either way, it probably didn't make that big a difference. But if you ask me again, would I make the same decision? I don't know right now. I have to admit that. So, it's disappointing for us in this team because we controlled the clock pretty well there. We converted another 4th down in that drive. We stayed pretty aggressive in that to the point of getting some balls thrown and caught in a time where most people think you're going to be just running clock.
So there's Lance trying to justify a little bit of some of the end of game decision making and basically saying like we were aggressive until we weren't. And so Daniels comes out of the game. If my memory serves correct, Arizona did take a timeout before the field goal. So at that point, you could have put Daniels back at the game, as he referenced, and tried to go for it. Again, maybe they just felt like this gives us the best chance to win. And with the way the defense had been playing, you could certainly make that argument. It's just, from a Kansas fan's perspective, we've seen this before. So regardless of the specific circumstances and context, this is kind of how the entire season has been painted with decision-making under Lance Leipold. And it wasn't just the 4th and 2 late in this game where you kicked the field goal. It was earlier on a 3rd and 5 play call where you're aggressive down the field, you miss. You're thinking, though, in that situation, that should be 4-down territory. At Arizona's 40, instead they take the delay a game and punt it back to them. It's consistent decision-making at the end of games, throughout games, to play not to lose. We well documented the Missouri game where they're running out clock at the end of the first half, and in doing so, they end up giving Mizzou back the ball to kick a field goal at the end of the half. That was when it was a close game. I mean, go back to each one of these games, and there's decision-making by the head coach that is uber conservative and playing not to lose. And it's just maddening, again, from the perspective of a Kansas fan, because how do you not learn week over week after all of these consistently conservative decisions to still make those same conservative decisions and playing not to lose? At some point, play to win. My goodness. I mean, even in that situation, your defense is playing well, but go win the game. Worst case scenario, you give them the ball back without scoring deep in their own territory, as you did with the missed field goal. And to evaluate your quarterback and say he's hurt, but to not realize that your kicker may also be a little bit hurt, because there was talks that his first missed kick of the year occurred after he hit a 50-yarder, but had some issues coming out of that. So it's just a lot of this. I'm hearing the excuses. There was a point earlier in this game where a pick six was wiped off the board. And it was called for defensive hold. And Leipold was up in arms about the call. And I get it. It's a questionable call. But the call's made. And it feels like what you're signaling to your team when you lose your composure like that on the officials in a huge call. I get it. It was a huge call. But even as he's being interviewed, he talked about, well, it's a big call went against us. That's a game-changing play. It's like, dude, forget about it. Move on. Like, your team is now focused on the call that they were slighted on as opposed to forget about that and move on to the next play. And the last thing I'll say on this is Jalen Daniels feels like when he's facing pressure, not like pressure from a defensive line.
Not like a quarterback hurry pressure.
Correct.
Like a situational pressure.
Like he through the first 7 games, Daniels was elite. 70% completion percentage, over 250 yards a game, 18 touchdowns, 2 picks, 9.4 yards per attempt. Last 3 games, K-State, Oklahoma State, Arizona, 239 yards a game, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4.4 yards per attempt over that stretch. He's been bad the last 3 games and maybe good enough to win, but certainly the K-State game, I go back, and he missed guys wide open in that game. He missed windows in this game too, same thing. So it's a combination of you've got a 6th-year quarterback that's just not playing well, where the pressure's been ratcheted up. You're trying to get that 6th win, get to a bowl game, and there they are stuck now 5-4, having lost 2 of their last 3, including the 17th straight that they lost or 18th straight that they lost to K-State earlier this season.
We might have to circle back to this game later on because Lance Leipold, the way he was describing the situation, and I'm looking for a rule clarification, because the official took Jalen Daniels out of the game, he could not put Jalen Daniels back in for that play, regardless of who called a timeout when. He had to miss one play. If it was a situation where he could have called a timeout and Jalen was eligible to go back in the game, Lance said, yes, I'm going for it there. But with a backup quarterback, knowing that Jalen Daniels cannot re-enter for one play, that adds some context to why they went for the field goal on 4th and 2.
100%, but how do you not know then that your kicker is not feeling great?
Right.
Because the dude missed a chip shot. And again, I mean, maybe their defense gives it up anyways, but like Jalen Daniels out of the game, I'm not going to go for it, but my kicker, who has been great all year, it's his first miss the entire season. But did nobody tell you or alert you that he's not feeling great? Because the result is the same. Whether you go for it and don't get it with the backup quarterback or the missed kick, the result's the same there. And by the way, again, the kick only puts you up by 3. Go win, only puts you up by 6 if you make it. Go win the game. Go win the game. If you get it, the game is effectively over. That's the part that is so maddening that, like, yeah, we can context the F out of this. But, like, it's the same thing every game.
Right.
It's the same story. You're playing not to lose.
And coming up with new ways to lose for KU. Big win for Arizona. They get to 6-3 bowl eligibility. Coming up next, it's our Big 12 Today weekly awards. We run through our player of the week, our coach of the week, our jersey fire fit of the week, and atmosphere of the week. He's Ari, I'm James. Taman on the controls. This is Big 12 Radio and streaming live simulcast on Big 12 Studios. Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Crack open an ice cold Modelo because we are brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo, here exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios, YouTube, Roku, all the places. He's Ari Timken on social at Ari Sports, ARI Sports. Very polished and proper today, ready for his pod. I'm James Westling. Is that a new shirt?
No.
I like it.
It's more of a winter shirt, so, whipped it out today, but I appreciate that.
I'm making fun of you so much because I'm jealous. We cleaned our closets yesterday. Took us 3 hours. But let me tell you, they are so organized. I mean, that's the highlight of the weekend.
Nothing says I'm 40 quite like I organized this weekend. And
Nothing.
It made me super excited.
And it is the worst. Our Big 12 Today weekly awards. We go through our player of the week, our coach of the week, our jersey of the week, and atmosphere of the week. We're going to start with our player of the week. Ari, who's your Big 12 Today player of the week?
I don't know that there's another answer here other than Jacob Rodriguez, who absolutely dominated the biggest game of the weekend in the Big 12. 14 total tackles, tackle for loss, fumble recovery, and an INT. Just in case you needed something else. But, I mean, he basically did it all. I think he drove the bus after the game as well for Texas Tech.
Yeah, he's mine too. There's his numbers on the screen. 14 tackles. He had that TFL.
Heisman moment there.
Fumble recovery. He flashes the Heisman pose, which he didn't say was planned. It was totally in the moment. But it could not have been better staged for him, and now what has really been the birth of his Heisman campaign. And if a defensive player can win it, like we saw last year with Travis Hunter, who played a little bit of offense, a lot of offense. But in this new era of college football, when there's no dominant quarterback, running backs are kind of a thing of the past. Everybody's throwing the football for the most part. I mean, why can't Jacob Rodriguez win the Heisman?
I mean, I would say in the same game, same window, I should say, Fernando Mendoza was doing Heisman Trophy type things for Indiana. So, I mean, I would say it's at this point Fernando Mendoza's award to lose. But with that being said, Jacob Rodriguez should absolutely get invited to New York. Like, it should, I would think, at this point, be 3 players on stage. Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza, and Jacob Rodriguez. So, can he win it? I don't know. Tough, especially with what Indiana's doing. But he should definitely be there and get the recognition to be there because he's had an incredible season. It's the culmination of a lot of things for him and for Texas Tech.
And one thing that could hurt him in this race is the fact that, remember, the Heisman ballots actually get submitted before Conference Championship Saturday. So let's say Mendoza struggles against Ohio State, assuming that's who they'll play, and Jacob Rodriguez balls out and has 15 tackles and a couple of takeaways.
It won't matter.
Championship. Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll be too late.
Well said.
Here's what Rodriguez said, though, about Joey McGuire's support of him winning the Heisman.
Having belief from the head man is huge. And so just knowing that, he has my back and I have his back. And, we talk about it a lot as a team. And then, just me and him, just how much we care about each other and how much, our love from, guy to guy on this team is so tight-knit that, we can play at a higher level and we can play so much harder just because of how much we love each other. And so it's really nice to be able to have, people who have your back.
He's a baller. He's a baller. That is Jacob Rodriguez, our Big 12 player of the week. All right, who's your Big 12 coach of the week?
My Big 12 coach of the week is Joey McGuire, the head football coach for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who won arguably the biggest game in the history of the Texas Tech program on the 4th anniversary of being hired. And so he's my coach of the week this week because, I mean, how could you go in any other direction other than what Texas Tech just did this weekend? And what they're doing this season is a testament to how good of a coach Joey McGuire is overall and his ability to bring a group together. I mean, you just heard from Jacob Rodriguez, him talk about his teammates and talk about the brotherhood that they have. That's all Joey McGuire. That's all the culture that he's established and set up. And we know that this is a program that brought in a ton of players, has a lot of talent that are in many ways, mercenaries. Romello Height has spent how many years at different programs and, to bring those guys together, to get them pulling on the same rope in the same direction, to get the buy-in like that, that's hard to do. That's coaching. That's Joey McGuire.
It's remarkable. We can get you to the NFL if you buy in. That's the caveat. You're not going to play if you don't buy in, so you're not going to have any tape for the NFL. You have to buy in. And these guys have done that, and now they're all going to be pros. My Big 12 Coach of the Week is Matt Campbell. Iowa State shocking TCU in Fort Worth, 20-17. TCU's been really good at home. Iowa State was down 17-6 early in the fourth quarter. They get a 1-yard touchdown run by Carson Hansen. Then just a couple of minutes later, a 79-yard punt return by Aiden Flora to flip the lead for good. TCU actually outgained Iowa State 432-272, but Iowa State won in very Cyclone fashion. Special teams, key defensive stops, and the fact that we highlighted last week Rocco Becht and everything he's been through this season mentally, the fatigue, the fact that it's been all on his shoulders. Nobody's harder on himself than Rocco Becht. And then I thought TCU would just throw all over the Iowa State secondary. And Matt Campbell had this to say about just how tough this team is.
It's one of the toughest group of kids I've ever coached. I mean, what this group has been against, all the challenges that they faced. They haven't wavered the last couple weeks, and they sure in the hell didn't waver today. And how they won the football game is really how they played the last couple of weeks. We were just able to make a couple key plays in some critical moments. But, this group's never quit, and we talked about last night. There's a lot of teams, there's a lot of people I've seen quit, but I've never seen a great team quit their way to the top. But we've got a lot of great teams that have struggled their way to the top. And this group's about that. And they're fighting through the struggle as great as any group we've ever had here. I think the reality is so many young guys are being forced in some critical moments. And, I think they're gaining confidence as they keep working through it. And, it was huge. I mean, Aiden Flora's play obviously is incredible. And, man, he had a great start to the season. Then we lost him for a couple weeks. And now he's back and, doing a great job. Obviously, man, Rocco and Ben, for Ben to make the play early and Rocco to make the play late. What those two have been through over the last couple of weeks physically has been incredible. And then defensively, man, how many guys are stepping up and making critical plays. Josh Patterson, freshman, has the big interception. And, man, you couldn't be prouder of the character of this group. And so, we're fortunate here. We got tough kids that stand for what's right.
Yeah, the quote there that's fantastic is nobody ever quits their way to the top. You got to struggle your way to the top. And look, this was an impressive win. I love that you had Matt Campbell as your coach of the week this week because TCU was in complete control of this game until they weren't. And Iowa State seized control. I think Iowa State recognized they had an opportunity. Whereas in past weeks, their defense has just been atrocious, hemorrhaging yards. Maybe they never felt like they had the confidence as a team to win despite that. And sometimes, like we talked about with Lance Leipold in Kansas, where it's like, your team kind of responds to your coach. Like, I think this went the other way, where in previous weeks when things go bad for the defense, the rest of the team just kind of slump shoulders or whatever. But this week, it was like, no, we got a chance here. Like, the defense is keeping us in it. We got a shot here. And, this is a really bad loss for TCU at Sonny Dykes. They were kind of under the radar looking to get to 7-2 and keep pace in the Big 12 title race. And now, that's not going to happen now. And we thought at the beginning of the year that TCU would have the toughest schedule in the Big 12, and as it turns out, their schedule has not been as tough as we thought it was, and yet despite that, they're not going to be playing for a Big 12 championship.
Yeah, they're really hard to figure out. The way they just got, demolished on the road by K-State. They almost lose at home to Colorado. They do lose this one at home against Iowa State. That's a tough one. All right, Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, our weekly awards. Your Jersey of the Week, who had the fire fit?
Texas Tech. We're working on a clean sweep here for Texas Tech across the awards. Look, BYU had cool helmets, jerseys, but I thought the Tech jerseys looked awesome. I think it was a great look for them. I loved the piping down the side. I thought it was like not too crazy and futuristic, but like old school and new school with the coloring. I don't know what you call that, like gray, silver piping and numbering that they had.
Yeah, chrome silver.
Chrome, thank you.
Yeah, it's very chrome-like.
Yeah.
Looks like a Harley-Davidson.
Looked awesome. And I love that they didn't do like the full-on chrome helmets. It was the white with the chrome accents, which I thought was a really good look. They looked fantastic. I don't know how you can go anywhere else this week with jerseys of the week, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I did go somewhere else.
I know. I'm devastated.
I did go somewhere else. I went BYU. I thought BYU.
Oh, they're a great 1B.
The
obvious 1B. Clearly a 1B.
The Sailor Cougar helmet decal put this uniform, this fit over the top for me. It looks so good, and I'm just a huge fan of how clean and minimalistic their uniform combos are. I love all of their sets. They're
huge
just
minimal
simple,
fan.
Bright royal blue, white piping, same shoulder, sleeve stripes as they've got on the pants. It's all just, it's so clean. It's so polished, much like you today.
Oh, yeah, clearly a 1B. Clearly a 1B.
Clearly a 1B.
Great helmets, but a helmet does not a full jersey make.
Did you hear about, speaking of your pick, Texas Tech and Patrick Mahomes and his legacy in Lubbock? Apparently they announced, I believe on Saturday, that this Patrick Mahomes line, that Patrick Mahomes, who's all in with Adidas, who fits Texas Tech, he is launched this Team Mahomes NIL athlete line, and it's going to include 5 Texas Tech athletes from 5 different sports. Baron Morton's one from football, Nigeria Kennedy from softball, Christian Anderson from men's basketball. Just another way to get them tied in with Adidas and the whole NIL Texas Tech thing.
Awesome.
He was all in at that game, too.
And you could tell.
He was pounding Modelo's.
We saw shots of Patrick Mahomes as much as we saw shots of Joey Maguire. Maybe more.
Was Brittany there? Taman's shaking his head. He knows.
He doesn't go anywhere without Brittany. Come on.
Brittany was there. Okay. How about our atmosphere
Did
of the
you watch
week?
the game?
This will be a tough one. Actually, I did. Not all of it, but most of it.
You just missed the 37 shots of Patrick Mahomes and Brittany that they had?
I saw Patrick. It got out of hand. I said, where's... Is that Brittany?
All right, yeah. Atmosphere of the week, clean sweep for Texas Tech here. Coach of the week, player of the week, jersey of the week, atmosphere of the week. I don't know how you can go anywhere else unless you're stretching. You had to do some deep calisthenics, James, to get stretching to get a coach of the week and a jersey of the week that was not Texas Tech, but clean sweep. The environment was incredible. Anybody you heard from that was there, I mean, the striping, the red and the white, it looked amazing. I mean, at one point you had Grant McCaslin get on the microphone and basically say, hey, let's make sure to keep this clean with BYU fans and be nice and friendly. And I just thought, like, the atmosphere was perfect. It befit a team that is that the program is, it befit where the program is at right now. There's no nastiness, no anger, just happiness, excitement for this program and where it's at on the upper trajectory. Texas Tech, clearly the atmosphere of the week.
Man, I love Texas Tech fans. Like, I've never met a Texas Tech fan that's just a total jackwagon. Like, they can get chippy on social media. I love their passion. But every Texas Tech fan, they're good people. They're good people. Good people in Lubbock. And that place was rocking. It was the perfect Big 12 entertainment value. This is our moment. This is our stage. And they crushed it.
And that was your atmosphere of the week as well?
Oh, yeah.
So you didn't have to stretch this week to find a different one?
No, I didn't stretch.
It's got to be clean sweep for Texas Tech.
It is. I mean, like Arizona was pretty good.
Yeah, sure.
Not bad.
Not bad.
But nothing like that. Nothing like that. All right, coming up next, our college football national whip-around. We look at some of the other games that took place over the weekend, the impact they could have on the Big 12 championship race. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, a Monday edition. We come to you each Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 Eastern, 7 to 10 Central, here on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, brought to you the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. And you can always go back and listen to any of your favorite guests or segments, Big 12 Radio podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, On Demand. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Taman, our producer Taman, over there in the corner. And we will get to some Big 12 basketball weekend recap because there were 4 teams that played against power conference opponents over the weekend. The Big 12 went 2-2. Who won, who lost? We'll break it down here in about 15. But on Friday, Ari and I got to socialize. And you remember, like growing up as a kid, if you'd see a school teacher out in public at the grocery store or something, and it'd be a really weird feeling, like they eat food? What are they doing here? They only live in the school. That's how I felt seeing you out in public on Friday. It's like, here we are in a public setting. I don't know what to do with my hands.
I mean, I used to ask James to hang out outside of work.
We hang out all the time.
But I stopped asking because you just would say no. So, no, I'm glad it was weird for you to see me out in public. I am a normal human. I don't just live at the studio. And, yeah, it was great to see you. I'm glad that we were forced to hang out because our kids are playing a football game against one another. And hope that at some point we're forced to hang out again very soon.
We should do it more often. It was lovely.
Should do it more often.
It was lovely sitting there in my stadium seat, in my chair, just looking around. Where's Ari? Where did he go?
I mean, it was
where did he go?
It was a fairly controversial game, I must say.
Okay, let's
Despite
do this.
how
Let's
cool
do
you
it now.
are, that you never want to hang out with me, and I'm fine with it. I'm not hurt about it. It's fine. At this point, James, you and I are just paid to hang out, which is what we do here every day for 3 hours, and I'm fine not seeing you outside of that 3-hour window every day. But there was some controversy in this game, I must admit.
You and I spend more time together than we do with our wives, at least me. I mean, we're here.
We do
hours
spend a lot of time
locked in.
together. You're right, yeah.
So,
It's
okay.
probably as much as I spend with my
But
family.
not to hijack your thread.
No, not at all. Don't hijack it. It's your thread.
What happened that was controversial?
Do I have to explain this to you, or do you know? I mean, I'm not going to blame officiating for everything that happens, but yeah, I mean, I think there was some mass confusion from the officials' side of what should and should not be a penalty. At some point, they did start calling flag guarding for the one kid on your team that made all the plays that was flag guarding literally every time.
We coach him to do that.
Yeah, I bet.
Make them throw the flag on every play.
They're not going to do it. Make them do it. I mean, the kid couldn't be tackled because you couldn't get to his flags because he was guarding his flags. But then
He also runs a 4.3 40. He's lightning fast. It's a youth football game, Ari. We're not out here scouting the transfer portal.
One of your assistant coaches was screaming at us because he thought one of our kids stepped out of bounds on a touchdown. It was very controversial. But come to the end, the game's going to overtime, and the officials had no idea how to handle overtime. And they were making it up as we went along.
Oh, definitely.
Now, it's controversial only from the standpoint of the officials had no idea how to handle overtime. But basically, like the first overtime, it was you get one play from the 2-yard line, kind of like what a 2-point conversion is. So both teams failed in that. The next one was, for some reason, they decided, like, oh, they can't get it from 2 yards. Let's move it further out. Let's see if they can get it from 5 yards now, or whatever it was, 10 yards. Like, they move it further out. Both teams still fail. So it's double overtime. Both have failed. And now it's like just line up at the 1-yard line and go as far as you can go, and whoever goes the furthest wins the game.
I like it.
And my son goes to me after the game like, I didn't realize that was how overtime worked. And I'm like, I didn't either. It doesn't. Like,
that's not real overtime.
Yeah, in no other game of football is that how overtime is handled. But basically, you guys, the Bills, ran for 3 yards, and that triple overtime, we ran for 2 yards. Mm-hmm. And so you guys were the ones that ended up advancing, and we did not.
Well, I can tell you that nobody wanted to win that game. It's tournament season. It's late on a Friday night. It's cold. Nothing galvanizes a fan base more than parents pretending to cheer while also secretly praying for elimination.
Because the games were going to continue.
Yes.
If whoever won the game played again right after. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And then the football team, very upset with the early exit from the playoffs. They just went and won the whole thing in baseball this weekend. So this was classic rings weekend for the first grade boys at our kids' school. And Anthony, if you have the picture, we can throw it up there now.
Anthony has the picture?
I hope so.
Okay, let's see. We've got ring season. We've got Ari and his son celebrating their championship ring.
A World Series championship.
We're throwing a lot at Anthony.
Aaron played phenomenally in this game. There we go. They beat the Cubs. So as you can see, I'm wearing my White Sox shirt in support of the Mets, who my kid was on.
Love it.
But yeah, I had to wear the White Sox shirt because they played the Cubs, so I was throwing some shade at the Cubs. But there's the ring. As you can see, the first grader got the ring. And look, he played exceptionally well in this game. And really throughout the playoffs, he had an out at third base, hard ground ball hit to him, took the ball, stepped to the bag, and then had a huge hit to start the championship run. Basically, they outscored. They won 16-4, and they got the 5 runs they needed to max out in the final inning in order to make sure that the game didn't continue. And Aaron started the scoring off with their 5-run 4th inning with a hit and then a run scored. So huge day for Aaron, for our team, and for the Brentfield Mets.
I've never seen you look happier.
Thank you.
In that picture right there. In fact, that's another takeaway that I had from Friday is I've never seen you happier away from me. When we're out in public, Ari's like, did you just get a stimulus check? I mean, he's on cloud 9. He's chatting with everybody. He's telling jokes. We get here in the studio, it's like another 3 hours with this guy.
At least they're paying me to hang out with him.
At least I'm getting paid. He's super annoying. So that was my takeaway.
Yeah. Once again, open invitation, James. If you ever want to hang out outside the show, wide open. Let's see if you take advantage of it, though.
We'll do it. Producer Taman,
just to
chiming in. Did you see the joy on his face? Do you see the joy on his face right now?
Just to at least throw. So we went to Big 12 basketball media days, and I've never seen somebody leave the arena as fast as James did. We could have saved the company money by Ubering together to get to the airport. James took off like a bandit.
I wasn't missing that flight.
I mean, I'm like, yeah, I'll be right there, Jay. And he just it was almost like, James wants to spend so little time with me away from the show.
It's not true.
He ran away from me.
It's not personal.
At the end of Big 12 media days.
It's not personal. It's not personal.
In order to get in his own Uber. I was like, should I even have dinner with this guy at the airport?
I saved you a spot at the Meat Mitch.
You did. After you'd already eaten and finished because I sat in traffic and your Uber made it there without hitting the traffic.
See, that's why you got to get out of there quick.
That's how little James wants to hang out with me outside the show.
That's not true.
We ended Big 12 media days in Kansas City, went from T-Mobile Center to the airport, and James got out there as fast as it was Usain Bolt speed that James took off with. Like, hey, bye guys, bye, see you later. Oh, like James, wait up. No, yeah, I'm good.
I am the Flash when I'm leaving anywhere, anything. Kid's birthday party, restaurant. I put that cape on, and I'm out of there.
All right, producer Table, what were you saying?
No, is when your son's football season is over, where are you guys going to hang out?
Oh, it's over.
Oh, it's over.
It's over.
So
this was an elimination weekend, Taman.
For 3 hours every Monday through Friday from 7 to 10 a.m. and 8 to 11 Eastern time.
That's not true.
All right, I will hang out
together. We're going to watch football games together.
You watching football games?
We're nearly 2 seasons in.
We're doing it all.
2 seasons in here. You can count the amount
We are doing it all.
You can count the amount of Big 12 football games we watched together on. Well, you don't need any hands to count. You know I love you.
But the text chain is...
But I'm glad we don't have to hang out outside the show. It's great.
Off the chain. The text chain is off the chain. Okay? Indiana, did you see the end of their game? That toe-tapping touchdown.
Good transition out of that.
Toe-tap touchdown. Indiana, Gus Johnson losing his mind. Indiana escapes at Penn State.
Yeah, Gus Johnson appropriately losing his mind at the appropriate moment. How about that? Indiana had never won at State College. They were 0-13, and this is a bad Penn State team that gave Indiana fits, did really well against Indiana's defense through 3+ quarters of this football game, and then Indiana turned it out at the end in order to come back and really a season-defining drive for Fernando Mendoza. And they get their first win ever at State College. They stay undefeated. Indiana, what an incredible run. And the throw and catch in this game to end the game was incredible. I mean, a great throw by Mendoza and an even better catch to keep both of his feet in bounds. It looked in real time like there was no way that it was going to be a catch, but when you saw it on replay, it was definitely a catch.
You know who the real MVP is from that game? That backline judge official
who
got out of the way to allow the catch to happen.
Also, as we go around college football, Lincoln Riley, known for bending the rules a little bit here, but USC attempts and succeeds in a fake punt using a backup quarterback who was wearing the same jersey number as the punter.
Wait, what?
So USC throws the backup quarterback, Sam Heward, on the field wearing number 80, which is the same jersey number that the punter wears. So they confused Northwestern, thinking the punter's out there. Instead, it's Sam Heward who throws a ball down the field wide open to a receiver for a first down for Northwestern, or for USC, that helped to clinch the game. And then after the game, the Big Ten releases a statement saying that was illegal, should not have been allowed.
Right.
Because as the rule goes, you cannot have a player with the same position wearing the same number. So you can have an offensive player and a special teams player wearing the same number, but since they already had the punter go out on the field wearing 80, they couldn't send another player out there as the punter wearing number 80. So it should have been illegal, should have never counted, but Lincoln Riley, once again, bending the rules to have to beat Northwestern in a football game.
I'm glad they identified that there was a mistake made in that game, because, you know, on special teams, you always hear the announcements over the PA, number 42 is now wearing number 14, because they don't have enough jersey numbers for these special teams guys. I thought maybe that was my first thought, is he found a loophole to get his quarterback on the field.
Well, he thought he did. I'm sure Lincoln Riley didn't know that this was a rule that was not allowed, because I would imagine if he had known that in that moment, he probably doesn't make that decision. He probably thought he was super sly, and he was, because he fooled the officials where they didn't throw a flag and penalize it and allowed USC to continue.
Texas A&M won at Missouri, 38-17. Concepcion, the receiver for Texas A&M, had a huge game. Always have to kind of, every time I see that he's having a huge game, it stabs me in the heart, because he almost went to K-State in the transfer portal. He was a highly touted guy from NC State, ends up at A&M. Outside of that, the upsets over the weekend, just real quick, Wake Forest wins at Virginia, 16-9. Cal wins at Louisville. And then Wisconsin beats number 23 Washington, 13-10.
What a doozy between Washington and Wisconsin. My goodness. Washington missed a field goal at the end of that game, or had it blocked, I believe, that gave Wisconsin the win. And, yeah, the ACC is completely up for grabs. The week after Virginia's undefeated in the Big 12, they're ranked as high as any team in the ACC in the College Football Playoff rankings, and they drop a bad one. And then, not to be outdone, but Louisville falls to Cal as in an ACC matchup. So,
don't forget about Oregon's high-profile win at Iowa, 18-16.
Yeah.
Dante Moore had a QBR of 39.7. That'll knock him out of the Heisman race.
Yeah. And, did you see his yards per attempt?
Not good.
I think it was less than a yard.
He had 21 attempts for 112 yards. He was 13 for 21 for 112 yards and an interception.
Yeah. So I think it's like the lowest yards per attempt in a winning effort in the history of college football.
What does that say about Iowa?
Yeah. What does that say about Iowa?
Notre Dame beat Navy 49-10. Vanderbilt beat Auburn 45-38. Miami beat Syracuse 38-10. These are just the top 25 games. Ole Miss had a throwaway game against the Citadel. I thought there'd be more upsets, like more high-level upsets. Ohio State didn't have any problems with Purdue. Alabama beat LSU 20-9. Georgia won by 3 scores at Mississippi State. So there weren't really any major top 10 upsets like I thought there might be.
Right, and we talked about that in the lead up to this week. Is crazy things happen when the calendar turns to November, and teams lose games that you don't expect them to lose, and that's what dictates the playoff race here. So we'll see if next week is any different.
Coming up next, a Big 12 basketball weekend recap. He's Ari, I'm James on Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, also streaming live on Big 12 Studios, brought to you by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. BYU and Texas Tech over the weekend. Texas Tech gets the 29-7 win. Kansas lets one slip away at Arizona. Iowa State shocks TCU. That was all on the football field. Houston gives UCF their first ever space game loss. West Virginia in a battle of freshman quarterbacks. Their freshman quarterback, you could argue, was better as they beat Colorado in Morgantown. Let's pivot to...
And real quick on that, now 9 bowl-eligible teams in the Big 12. Texas Tech, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, Utah, Arizona State, Arizona, TCU, and Iowa State. All bowl-eligible now with Baylor at 5 wins, Kansas at 5 wins, so the potential for 11, and maybe even UCF, who's 4-5, as the extra game. West Virginia would have to win out, which seems unlikely, and K-State needs a couple more wins as well to get to bowl eligible. So potential for maybe 13 teams.
Gosh, we're already at 9?
Did I count right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9.
We had 9 all of last season.
And 2 or 1 went away, and K-State and West Virginia both, or rather K-State and UCF are at 4 wins and have an extra game left relative to West Virginia and some of these other teams.
Right. Man, we're going to end up with way more this year, at least 2, I would think, than last season. Also, we've got a whale sighting. The Big 12 Conference announces Edward Jones as title sponsor of the Big 12 Football Championship. That's a stock reference. You wouldn't get it.
Got it.
Edward Jones is going to be the title sponsor of the Big 12 Football Championship. The game is at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, Saturday, December 6th at AT&T Stadium here in the Dallas area in Arlington. It'll be on ABC. So the Big 12, again, with a splash sponsorship deal, this time for the Big 12 Championship. And Edward Jones, they will partner on in-venue elements, broadcast placements. Edward Jones CEO Penny Pennington will be participating in the game's official coin toss. So, again, a big name, a big brand sponsoring the Big 12 Championship game.
Yeah, and you wonder, too, with the finances in college athletics, if there's going to be some involvement as well in that capacity to help some of these college athletes that are getting paid through Venmo with this other Big 12 deal, if they need some help and instruction in terms of how long-term planning. And I'm sure that there's probably some awkwardness there in terms of, like, you know, that part of it, but I would imagine, you know, that's also a good entry point for Edward Jones and a reason for why they would sponsor this. So I'm sure there's probably other elements that could be involved. Makes a ton of sense. The fit is there. And, yeah, a whale sighting for the Big 12, meaning another big-time partner you're bringing in from a corporate sponsorship standpoint. It's huge.
Big 12 Conference to the moon. To the moon, they say.
There you go.
All right, KU and North Carolina. Let's talk Big 12 basketball. This was Friday. You were wearing your KU Letterman jacket to the youth flag football game that we attended. KU got off to a really good start. They led 37-29 at halftime, but what happened in the second half? North Carolina wins it by 13, 87-74.
Yeah, this was not a great weekend for Kansas athletics because BYU beat them 1-0 in the Big 12 Women's Soccer Championship game. Kansas lost to Arizona in football on Saturday, and then on Friday night, Kansas was a tale of two halves. They were ahead 37-29 at halftime, absolutely stymieing that North Carolina offense, and then Tar Heels blasted KU in the second half, making 24 of 36 shots. They outscored Kansas 58-37 in the second half.
Was there anything... I was surprised by what happened in the second half because I just always assume that Bill Self is going to out-coach the other guy in the final 20 minutes. Hubert Davis is still the coach at North Carolina. In the second half, was there anything Bill Self could have done differently? Is this a concerning loss for KU, or is it just chalked up to it's early season, you still have everybody's healthy? You know, Darren Peterson was dealing with some cramp stuff going into the game. KU cooled off in the second half, maybe lost their legs.
Yeah, I mean, no. I think the short of it is the fear that people had with Kansas coming into the season and questioning the depth behind Darren Peterson was evident in the second half of the game. Like that's it. The biggest question mark about KU this year is do they have enough scoring and depth behind Darren Peterson? And it's funny, this was a topic we talked about last week, and it looked like, oh yeah, they're going to have that. And in this game in the second half, it flipped. Like North Carolina, is there anything Bill Self could have done? No. North Carolina could not miss. And that, coupled with the fact that KU could not buy a bucket, was just a deadly combination for them in this one. And yeah, I mean, it put that major question mark of Kansas. Do they have the scoring and ability and depth behind Darren Peterson to put it into question in a major way?
Here's what Bill Self said about what went wrong for KU in that game.
Well, I thought, obviously had to be something we ate or something I said at halftime, because we came out and we weren't any good and they were great. But I think it got away from us, the first 5 minutes of the second half, obviously. We go from having control of the game in a very, halftime doesn't mean anything, but had control of it to basically giving it all back plus some in the first 5 minutes. And that was the difference. And then after that, I don't think that we didn't show much maturity, which we're really young, but we didn't show much maturity and poise when they made their debut.
KU gave up a 12-0 run early on in the second half. North Carolina shot almost 70% from the field in the second half. And KU feasted on turnovers in the first half. They had 17 points off turnovers in the first half, but North Carolina only turned the ball over one time in the second half. So give credit to North Carolina for the way they won that game.
Well, and aside from this one, a couple of big-time wins in the non-conference for the Big 12 this weekend. Oklahoma State, 87, Texas A&M, 63. Oklahoma State led wire-to-wire here. They're up 9-0 early, and that really helped to set the tone. At halftime, Oklahoma State led 43-29, and then an early second-half push pushed the lead to 71-46 with 9:30 remaining. From there, they led by at least 20 the rest of the way. Christian Coleman, 16-3, 2 blocks, 2 steals. Isaiah Coleman, the Coleman brothers. We'll have to come up with some kind of a nickname. I don't think they're brothers, but the Colemans did fantastically, 15-9, and had 11-6 at halftime. And then how about Baylor late last night, Baylor 78-69 over Washington. Baylor led 38-32 at half, pushed it to double-digit lead early in the second half, and then the Huskies made a push to 73-68 with inside 2:15 to play, and then closed the free throws and defense. So Vanderbilt did blow out UCF, but beyond that, against Power 5 opponents, the Big 12 went 2-2 with the North Carolina and UCF losses, and Baylor beating Washington, whereas in Oklahoma State beating Texas A&M.
Man, that was a really nice win for Baylor. You're watching highlights on Big 12 Studios. Cameron Carr had 3 threes in the game, had 16 points. This game started at like 9 o'clock Central Time, so it was really late. They held Washington only 3 for 20 from three-point range. They had 6 players scoring double figures, shot 46% from the floor. Just a really balanced effort for Baylor, and I think that's the thing about them this year is when you look at their scoring. Remember last year it was Rob Wright, it was VJ Edgecombe, and the big fella on the inside, Omier, and that was pretty much it. Then they had a huge drop-off. This year they appear to be much more balanced.
Yeah, well, and, I mean, they got out-rebounded in this game, and they were destroyed on the offensive glass. I mean, Washington did a really good job on the offensive glass in this game, but it was the 3 for 20 3-point shooting for West Virginia, or for Washington. And one of the things with Baylor these last few years is they've had, some really high-level offenses, but some really bad defenses. And at least early on here, Baylor's defense is looking really, really good, especially with what they did in, making a Washington team that some people have as like a dark horse of the Big Ten look really bad shooting the basketball.
The other game you noted was Oklahoma State beating Texas A&M. That was yesterday, 87-63. Gallagher-Iba Arena, historic Gallagher-Iba Arena, was lit yesterday afternoon. It reminded me of the old days of Oklahoma State basketball when they had Big Country and Randy Rutherford and then Marcus Smart in that era. And I'm not saying they're that level of team, but Steve Lutz has injected a ton of life into that program. And Texas A&M's got a new coach, a ton of roster turnover, but Oklahoma State just completely dominated. They had multiple extended runs in the second half. They opened the second half They were up 43-29 at the break, and then went on an 11-3 run. So they're up by 22 with 10 minutes left in the game. It's pretty much over then. They had highlight reel play after highlight reel, and the Coleman combo. We can come up with something more creative.
That's pretty good.
But the Coleman combo off the cuff was really good for Oklahoma State. They have more depth. They still play that frenetic up and down. They want to lead the nation in adjusted tempo. That's their goal. That's what Steve Lutz did at Western Kentucky. And they looked like a team that is NCAA tournament ready, the way they blew out Texas A&M.
Yeah, well said. I think we both were pretty optimistic about Oklahoma State this season and Steve Lutz. And it's early. It's 2 games, but this is an impressive win. And we talked about the importance of these non-conference victories, that winning these games sets in motion the quad 1, quad 2 wins that'll be hugely important. It'll be gold down the stretch for this team to maximize the amount of bids. So you add up all of the non-conference wins that end up being, big-time non-conference wins for this conference. And ultimately, when you get to conference play, that means more wins will be quad 1, quad 2 wins, which will be huge for this conference. So the whole deal is set up for what you do in November and December, because you can't play outside your conference once the calendar turns to 2026. And so it's those wins that boost what you do in 2026.
And you could point to Texas A&M having a new coach and 13 new players, but Oklahoma State has a second-year head coach and 12 new players. I mean, they had to completely overhaul their roster. They also only had 9 turnovers. They were one of the worst teams in the Big 12 last year in turning over the basketball. They were a mess offensively at times. This early in the season to only have 9 and to shoot 48% from the floor, it is a well-rounded effort. And the KU loss against North Carolina doesn't hurt the league in any way, so I almost look at the Big 12 went 2-1. UCF lost to Vanderbilt, but these Oklahoma State and Baylor wins, I think, carry a lot of weight for what happened over the weekend.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go as far as you did, but yeah, I mean, look, North Carolina is supposed to win a game at home like that.
Right.
I just think the part that is disappointing is, it's the most accurate representation of what KU is going to be this year. It's still super early, right? It's the second game of the season. But, it's the best gauge we have yet for what KU will be this year, and it was exactly the question mark that people had about KU. Yeah. Can they get enough scoring opposite Darren Peterson? Peterson was phenomenal, but he's not going to be able to do it all of his own. They're going to need their secondary scoring to come. They're going to need to be a better three-point shooting team. That continues to plague them. And so we'll see what this looks like moving forward. But this was a disappointing loss for Kansas from the perspective of this put all of their perceived flaws at the forefront.
He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We're about 20 minutes away from Taylor McHargue. He will join us live on the program for his Monday morning quarterback segment. We'll be breaking down all the Big 12 signal callers and what took place over the weekend. But coming up next, can Jacob Rodriguez really win the Heisman? And there's one Big 12 team that can screw this whole thing up when it comes to bids in the college football playoff. We'll tell you who that is around the corner. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. The next college football playoff rankings will be released tomorrow at 7 Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time.
Where do you think the Big 12 will be?
You know, I'm mostly intrigued by I'm intrigued by where everybody will be. Texas Tech is the head scratcher for me because, you know, ESPN's Power Rankings has them number 6. They had them number 9 last week. They have them one spot above in Ole Miss. But the AP Top 25 still has Texas Tech at number 8. Last week they were number 9 in the AP Top 25, so they only moved up a spot. And then Bill Connolly's SP Plus has them at number 4. So everything, Power Rankings, SP Plus, which is the KenPom of football, tells me they're a top 5, top 6 team in the country, but the College Football Playoff Committee had them at number 8. I think worst case scenario, they're 7th. Because that's where BYU was. I could see them as high as number 6.
Yeah, I mean, they probably should move past an Ole Miss team that just beat the Citadel. And so, yeah, I would think 6, probably not 5, but probably 6. And then how far does BYU fall? BYU at 7 this past week. They lose to a top 10 team. Should they fall behind Oregon, who had to struggle late? Should they fall behind Notre Dame, who has 2 losses? I would think BYU should still be top 10, but I'm not sure. And then I think Utah will move up. At least stand pat. I think when the announcement happens tomorrow night, we'll still have 3 teams in the top 15.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we'll have 3 teams in the top 13. Like, Utah shouldn't move. They had a bye. BYU, I think, will slide to 10, maybe 11. Maybe they're ranked behind. I could see a Texas or Oklahoma jumping in front of them just based off the history of the committee and how they've ranked these teams. But either way, 3 teams in the top 13, you're very much in the conversation still to get multiple bids and maybe 3 bids in the Big 12. So that would be my not even bold prediction, is that we'll still have 3 in the top 13. Utah, by the way, in the SP Plus rankings is number 7 this week. Notre Dame did jump them with the way they beat Navy. They were dominant in that game. Navy's one of the best teams in the American. Bless you.
Thank you.
But Utah still holding pat in front of Ole Miss, in front of Oklahoma. They're ranked ahead of Georgia, Alabama, all of those other one-loss teams. They're in front of in the SP Plus ratings. And he looks at a lot of different things. The AP Top 25 poll in the Big 12, I've got the power rankings in front of me, which has Texas Tech number 6, BYU number 10, and Utah number 13. Those have actually been closer to what the College Football Playoff Committee, where they have these teams. But the AP Top 25, Texas Tech climbs 1 spot to number 8. BYU drops 4 spots to number 12. They're ranked behind Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma in the AP. Utah climbs 2 spots to get up to number 15. Cincinnati moves up to number 22. They were number 25, I believe, last week. And then 3 new teams in the poll: Pitt, James Madison, and South Florida. Missouri is out. Iowa is out. North Texas is just on the outside looking in with Tulane.
Yeah, I mean, Tech being a spot behind Oregon seems outrageous. I mean, it's why the AP Top 25 at this point is made a joke.
Yeah.
I think in years past, the College Football Playoff rankings may have mirrored that of the AP Top 25, but I think that there are some important and subtle distinctions between the rankings from the College Football Playoff and the AP this week, and it's great because the AP's moot now, and clearly the CFP views the Big 12 where it should be relative to the ACC and to the rest of college football, and has ranked accordingly. The AP has not. I mean, Texas Tech just beat a top 10 team
by 22.
By 22 points. Oregon did what? And somehow they're still ahead of Texas Tech. Ole Miss beat the Citadel and moved up. Huh? I mean, why? Because the voters aren't watching the games, have no idea what's happening.
Right.
Nobody is dumber than AP Top 25 voters.
Well, and
collectively.
The thing that's encouraging about this season is the fact that with Mack Rhoades at the head of the College Football Committee, their rankings, at least week 1, didn't reflect what they saw from the AP Top 25. They had their own complete set, and they look at the Big 12 in a much better light. Now, the one team in the Big 12 that's really intriguing to me down the stretch is Cincinnati. Cincinnati plays Arizona at home this weekend. Next weekend, they play BYU at home in Cincy, and then they wrap up at TCU. If they win out, they will play for a Big 12 championship game against Texas Tech, assuming Texas Tech wins out. What would that mean for this whole thing? I mean, it would give BYU their second loss. Utah's probably going to win out based off of their schedule and how dominant they've looked. But Cincinnati is the one kind of wrench, I think, that could be thrown into this whole Big 12 race, depending upon what they do the rest of the year, simply based off of where they're currently ranked at number 22.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very interesting if Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah all went out and Texas Tech then were to beat BYU for a second time in the Big 12 championship. Then what do you do? Because BYU has that win over Utah. So, I mean, does Utah get in despite not playing in the Big 12 championship?
Right.
Would BYU get in even with the 2 losses to Texas Tech? I mean, I think that if BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah all went out, the Big 12 will most likely get 2 teams, maybe 3, depending on what happens around them. But it'd be interesting to see if it's just 2, what the decision is between BYU and Utah. Or if BYU beats Texas Tech, it's an easy decision in the Big 12 championship because then BYU gets the automatic bid, and I think Texas Tech would still get in.
But in terms of just talking crazy, let's say Cincinnati beats BYU. Okay, so Cincinnati would play for the Big 12 championship game. Let's say they win out. If they control their own destiny. If they win out, they'll be in Arlington. So if you had Cincinnati and Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game, you had BYU and Utah, each with 2 losses on the season, but BYU would have the head-to-head. How many teams in that scenario get in or are in the conversation to get in? Would 2 late-season losses hurt BYU to the point where they're not in this year either, which would be almost a carbon copy of what happened to them last year?
Yeah.
It'd be wild.
I mean, we could sit here and play out hypotheticals until the cows come home. The reality is crazy things happen in November, so we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I mean, I would think right now the Big 12 is in a really good position to get at least 2 teams in the college football playoff, which seemed not possible when the season started. But it shows that this league has some firepower at the top, which is something we have not seen from this league in quite some time.
Yeah.
This is not his league of parity. Texas Tech is dominating every opponent that they played. BYU and Utah clearly are 2 and 3 in this conference, and Texas Tech has thoroughly and utterly dominated those 2 teams. The only team they didn't dominate was their one loss to Arizona State, in which Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson both played and were healthy, and Will Hammond started for Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Every other game, they've completely dominated the conference.
I think we're almost to the point where are they a top 4 seed?
Yeah. And I would say the answer is yes. I mean, they just give them the eye test, right? I mean, this is a dominant offensive and defensive line, and the defense is as good as any we've seen. So, yeah, I mean, I it's hard for me not to put them into the top 4 conversation, which means they'd get a first-round bye and potentially play in the Cotton Bowl in round 2. Quarterfinals.
The latest projections had Texas Tech hosting as a 7 seed, 10 seed Texas in the first round.
I mean, if you're a Texas Tech fan, you almost have to root for that over getting a bye.
Right?
Because the ability to have the opportunity to play Texas at your home game, at your home stadium at Jones AT&T, to beat them, knock them out, in a year where they were preseason number 1.
Arch Manning.
Now, you could also lose the game, which would be devastating.
Yeah, we don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
That'd be bad. Speaking of roads well-traveled, Kansas State running back Dylan Edwards announces over the weekend that he plans to enter the transfer portal.
Are you shocked by this?
No.
Are you surprised by this?
Maybe a little.
Surprising, not shocked.
Yeah. I mean, he's a really good player. Over 2,100 all-purpose yards and 15 touchdowns in his career. Had a huge bowl game last year for K-State, set the single-game bowl rushing record, had over 200 yards on the ground. But this season, something's been – I just think where there's smoke, there's fire. And he's been in and out of the lineup. Is he hurt? Is he not hurt? How hurt is he? What is the injury? Is he going to redshirt the rest of the year? Now he's going to redshirt and enter the portal. I mean, this has been chatted about in Manhattan for months.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you think that he's made decisions on to whether or not to play this season based on future playing opportunities. It makes you question whether or not some of these games where he didn't play, whether he could have. Mm-hmm. And whether he was thinking about what next year would look like as opposed to what he's doing in the here and the now for K-State. I mean, K-State figured this dude was our guy. He's the number one back. He's the feature back. He's going to be our guy. And there's a good chance that Chris Kleiman didn't go out and and recruit in the portal at the running back position to give the opportunity to Dylan Edwards to be the guy, right? Edwards would have wanted the opportunity to be the guy. Kleiman most likely does not go out and recruit the portal for running back because he doesn't want to make it seem like Edwards is not the guy. And what happens? He leaves them high and dry. You could argue that the failures of this season on K-State were to misevaluate the running back position, which now that we're seeing Dylan Edwards on his way out, you're wondering, man, had they recruited that position a little bit more heavily and didn't just hand the keys over to Dylan Edwards, they may have been in a better spot. Yeah, you hate it. Sucks. It's awful. It's an awful look for Dylan Edwards. Awful look for Dylan Edwards.
And that's the thing. It does reflect poorly on him because just the way Kansas State spoke about his status just made me think there were more layers to what was on the surface. He gets hurt against Iowa State week 0, but then him being kind of in and out of the lineup and on and then off injury reports, and it almost sounded like Kansas. It sounded like, and this is just total speculation, which I know we shouldn't do, but was Chris Kleiman and the coaching staff going to him as like weekly check-ins? Do you want to play? Because you can maintain your year of eligibility if you play in 4 or less games. And it's like he's been on the fence all season, and now he's just finally at the point where he's out. And he committed to Notre Dame out of high school, ends up at Colorado, now he's at Kansas State, only actually used up 1 year of eligibility in Manhattan. So he has 2 years of eligibility left as he preserves that redshirt option. But it's just a bizarre situation.
Over under on 1 or 2 more schools for Dylan Edwards. So I'll say over under 1.5.
With 2 years of eligibility left?
Yeah.
I'll go under. I'll go under only because I think he's trying to get to the NFL. Again, I don't know Dylan Edwards. I don't know his family. I have no idea. But if he gets to a school where he puts up the type of numbers, I think he's off to try the NFL.
I'll take the over.
Take the over.
Very much taking the over. Yeah, you're going to tell me the guy that's now played at 3 different schools is going to stay at a 3rd school after originally committing to a 4th school? No. And by the way, I'm glad it's good to want things. I'm glad he's got aspirations of playing in the National Football League, but no. Not from what we've seen in his career so far. So.
He's a smaller, scat back type guy. But the thing about, like when I think about Kansas State offensively for this year and for next year, they kind of have a big 3. And those big 3 were Dylan Edwards, the running back, Avery Johnson at quarterback, and then Jace Brown at wide receiver. Those are their 3 offensive playmakers. For next season, how many of those 3 are back in Manhattan? Like, that's going to be a big story this offseason. Avery Johnson has shown that based off of what's happened this year, he's not ready for the NFL. Does he come back to Kansas State? Does Jace Brown, his roommate, come back to Kansas State after there were all these rumors last offseason that he was going to enter the portal? That's where, I think it's a big offseason for K-State.
Yeah, you're totally right. And we've talked a lot about Chris Kleiman and the success he's had at K-State, but they're just not used to being down like they are this season.
Yeah.
And so I think heading into next season, regardless of how the rest of this season finishes out, Kleiman's going to very much be on the hot seat. Fair or unfair, the standard at K-State is very high, and there were some recruiting misses here. The running back position was misevaluated. We could blame Dylan Edwards, and I certainly do, for kind of being checked out. in a season in which you couldn't have a running back like him checked out? Yeah, I'd say there's a ton of questions to be answered heading into next season for K-State.
And it's just, he was going to be K-State's bell cow. He's from Wichita. He's from an hour and a half from Manhattan. He was coming back home. He was
And look at what Kleiman did or didn't do in the portal. It's you. This is your opportunity. And it was like from this moment the season started, he just was on the shelf. Could not stay healthy, could not get healthy, and I think that's defined K-State's season.
And if he redshirts the rest of the year to preserve his eligibility to come back to Kansas State, I think that's a different story. Like, hey, I want to save my eligibility. I want to nurse, I want to get healed up and be 100% for this football team next year. So why not just that? Like, I would love to know what happened behind the scenes to make him leave, and especially make this public when there's still a month of the season left, a month and a half if K-State makes a bowl game. It's just a very unique situation.
Well, it is unique and it's not.
Yeah,
because
unexpected.
We've seen this from other players before. Traditionally, when you do this, it means, like, I'm not trying to make broad, sweeping proclamations about Dylan Edwards, but, like, I'm sure there's guys in that locker room that felt like Dylan Edwards was healthy enough to play and didn't play, and a lot of other guys in that team are doing that, and so that creates a level of contempt that you're not going to go back to that school. Like, when guys do this, traditionally, they leave. They're gone. And a big reason for that is because they don't want to face that locker room that they've let down.
Yeah. It's a really good point. Really good point. Kansas State running back Dylan Edwards entering the portal. Texas Tech linebacker Jacob Rodriguez. So you think he's a linebacker. He can't possibly win the Heisman. The last time a linebacker got close was 2012. Manti Te'o, Notre Dame. He was the Heisman runner-up that year in 2012. His first 10 games compared to Jacob Rodriguez, first 10 games, same number of tackles. Rodriguez has 4 more tackles for loss. They both have the same number of sacks. Manti Te'o has 3 more interceptions, but he didn't force a single fumble. Jacob Rodriguez has 7 forced fumbles. My point is the numbers are very comparable. You could argue Jacob Rodriguez actually has better numbers than Manti Te'o. And remember, that was a Notre Dame team that leaned on their defense. Couldn't name you their starting quarterback that year. They weren't very good offensively. Texas Tech is better than that Notre Dame team offensively. But my point in saying this is that was a linebacker that was a game changer. Jacob Rodriguez is a game changer and should very much be in the conversation.
Yeah, Jacob Rodriguez has 91 total tackles through 10 games. And, I mean, when you look across college football, basically anybody in front of, like, there are very few players in front of him that are not, that are playing at the Power 4 level.
Yeah, that are playing on good teams. Like, those guys are getting all the tackles because they're playing on defenses where they're the only guy making plays.
Yeah, and so, I mean, he's just head and shoulders above everybody else from, like, a top team standpoint in terms of tackles. And then, you combine that with the sack, the 9.5 tackles for loss, the interceptions, 3 of them, the 2 fumble recoveries, 7 forced fumbles. Yeah, dude, we talked about this earlier. I think at this point it's Fernando Mendoza's award to lose, but Jacob Rodriguez should be invited to New York.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Definitely. All right, we will talk quarterback play with our Monday morning quarterback around the corner, Taylor McCarg. He joins us each and every Monday here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, listening to us exclusively on TuneIn, watching us on Big 12 Studios. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, brought to you the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. We're awaiting our Monday morning quarterback, Taylor McCarg. He'll join us around the corner. Taman, our producer, on the controls. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. There's a center for Arizona State men's basketball that NBA draft scouts are freaking out about. He's 7'1". He runs like a gazelle. He had 18 points, 6 rebounds, a couple of steals, a couple of blocks, hit 2 threes.
What's his name, James?
His name is Mor Masamba Diop.
You sure? You confident about that?
Mor Masamba Diop.
Pretty confident?
No.
Okay.
Usually D-I-O-P is Diop.
Yeah.
Mor Masamba Diop.
There was a player on the Mavs about 20 years ago named Sagana Diop. It was D-I-O-P spelled the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it can be Diop, sometimes it can be Diop.
I have no idea to say it. I just knew you didn't.
So you caught the massive introduction with Arizona State has this guy.
Has a dude.
They've got this center. He's really fast. He's athletic. He can shoot threes.
Yeah. 18 points against Utah Tech. Utah Tech was so bad this weekend that they lost to the Big 12 twice, both to Arizona and Arizona State.
Not a great weekend for Utah Tech or your Kansas Jayhawks. We were talking during the break about what's KU going to do at quarterback next year. It's going to be really weird with Jalen Daniels not at QB since he's been there for a decade in and out of the lineup. He's been there forever. I thought Todd Reesing would never graduate. Jalen Daniels said, hold my Modelo.
Yeah, his first year was 2019.
It was pre-COVID.
Was Trump president then? For the first time?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like this.
That was the first Trump administration.
Like, yeah, he's been around so long, he's seen 3 different presidents.
Technically 2 presidents.
Right, but 3 different, right.
Yeah.
3 different iterations.
Yeah.
3 presidential cycles.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, late in the game for Kansas against Arizona, they had a 4th and 2 and could have put the game away, but instead elected to kick a field goal, which they ended up missing. And then Arizona goes right down the field and scores the game-winning touchdown. And after the game, Lance Leipold is talking about, well, Daniels had to be taken out of the game and had to sit for a play. And if he was healthy, and out there, we would have gone for it on 4th and 2 and woulda, coulda, shoulda. I mean, you got a quarterback that very much will factor into the race next year in Isaiah Marshall, who was highly recruited a couple of years ago coming in, who has a very similar skill set to Jalen Daniels. So, I don't know, maybe that's a moment to put him out there. Maybe it's something you should have repped throughout the week. I don't know. Just think it out loud here, that maybe you could be more prepared in a 4th out situation to win the game and put the game on ice, because it's end-of-game decision-making that's cost them multiple games. And as you've talked about throughout this season and throughout the show today, like, Kansas is just inventing new ways to lose football games, which happens when you're unprepared at the end of football games. Period. End of story.
I mean, and this has been a problem for back-to-back seasons for Kansas. To talk more on the Big 12 quarterbacks, we welcome in Taylor McCarg, our Monday morning quarterback, covers the Big 12 on Inside the 12, analyst for CBS Sports and ESPN. Hey, Taylor, how's it going?
I'm good, guys. How are y'all doing? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you as well. Who was the most impressive quarterback over the weekend?
Man, I feel like we could go in a couple different directions. I think we've got to start with Texas Tech. And I understand if you just go by statistics alone, Baron Morton had a fairly average day, 17 of 32 for just over 200 yards. But you think about how big that spot was. I mean, this is what Texas Tech and what Baron Morton for his career had been building to for his entire career, but really the entire Joey McGuire era was building up to this moment in this game. And they did what they needed to do. And so just from a wins and losses standpoint, I thought Baron Morton and that offense did. It was a slow start. I mean, they were really not running the ball as well as I thought they probably would against BYU early. But I would start there. And then on the other side, one that I think he did not. The turnover issues were not great, but for Houston to get out of Central Florida with a win and keep their Big 12 aspirations alive, the thin margin for Houston, but Connor Wegman and Houston escaping Central Florida with a win, I thought was obviously important. You guys were just touching on it. It sounds like when I jumped on, but Kansas continuing to struggle and not being able to close out games, and one where it looked like they should have been able to get a win over Arizona, and then late they give it away, and now you're sitting there scratching your head wondering, is Kansas going to make it to a bowl this year?
Yeah, well said. I want to get your thoughts on Behren Morton and Texas Tech, and it's hard to nitpick because their defense is so dominant, and they basically have destroyed everybody they played, with the exception of Arizona State, and that was without Behren Morton. But they struggle in the red zone. I mean, they're only 24 of 59 scoring touchdowns. They do convert red zone opportunities into points, but not at a high enough rate from a touchdown perspective, at barely just over 50%. For a team that has championship aspirations, that could be the difference between winning and losing playoff games. What do you see from Behren Morton? What do you see in the red zone that plays into their struggles?
Well, you're exactly right, and I think down the stretch, I don't know that it's going to matter during Big 12 play because their defense is playing so well. I think it's more going to be a problem for them, assuming this team is the representative for the Big 12 or one of potentially two representatives for the Big 12 in the playoff. You're really going to run into this when you face more quality defensive fronts in the playoff. And what happens is, as the field condenses, a lot of times when teams struggle in the red zone, it's one of two things. You're not creating explosive plays in the passing game, or you're scheming guys open, and that's been a challenge in the passing game. And number two, in the tight red area, once it gets inside of 10 yards, Texas Tech's not running the football well. They're not moving people once it gets into that tight red area. And the problem there is, just like you mentioned, Ari, they move the ball down the field, but then get it into the scoring position, and you're not creating the explosive plays that you need to. And to me, there's, again, one of two ways you can do it. What I would like to see if I'm a Texas Tech fan is, what are some creative ways that you can scheme one guy open in the passing game? This was out of the ACC, but if you were watching the Cal Bears this week, they go for it to try and win that game. And it's a single man route, just a pivot route, and you're trying to get one guy open, and they convert, and it wins them the game. Well, that was inside of the 5-yard line. Those are the types of plays that Texas Tech has got to create more of, because, again, it's not really biting them right now. And I don't know that it will down the stretch in Big 12 play and through the Big 12 championship because of how dominant their defense has been. But I promise you, they're going to have to figure out ways to create touchdowns over field goals if they want to not just make the playoff, but advance beyond the first round of the playoff.
Do you think they have the guys to make those type of plays, like Reggie Virgil and Caleb Douglas at receiver? They've got a tight end in Terrence Carter. Coy Aiken had a really nice catch against BYU. Does Tech have those type of playmakers to make those type of red zone plays?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and it's one that Texas Tech would tell you that they have the difference makers at receiver. I'm not sure that they do. I think right now they have above average Big 12 receivers, but there's obviously no, like a Jordan Tyson, for example, where when you get into the tight red area, you're going to figure out ways to get him the ball. That being said, the area that I would challenge Texas Tech on is also being able to move people and run the football effectively. That's got to be an area that they improve on. On the outside at receiver, do they have difference makers? No, I don't think it's out of all of the depth on that team. A lot of it we've focused on, and for good reason, on the defensive front. But I would say the receiving core for Tech is probably just above average in terms of league play. I would put them in the top third of the league. But do they have a difference maker, somebody that you're going to, like a Coy Aiken, for example, I think is a good player out of the Big 12. Is that somebody that so far this season has separated himself and said, okay, we've got to find him in the red area? Not so far, but they're going to have to figure out ways to scheme guys open again if they're going to create those opportunities and advance beyond the first round in the playoff if they make it.
Yeah, great point. The other side of that, Taylor, would be the quarterback play at BYU, and I guess we were waiting all year for Bear Bachmeier to look like a true freshman, and he finally did. What did Tech do to him, and do you think there's a blueprint here against Bear Bachmeier and BYU?
Well, they did, I think what we talked about a week ago. I think they got early and often it looked like they got BYU uncomfortable and put into obvious passing downs. And I think that was something that we said was going to be a focus in this game, and getting them to third and long. I believe it was 3 of 14 or 3 of 15 that BYU was on third down. And a big part of that was they didn't allow BYU to get to a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, because even 3rd and medium against that Texas Tech front is very difficult. You're not running the ball well enough against that front. And if you get them into obvious passing downs and you let that front pin their ears back and come after your quarterback, I mean, we haven't even talked yet about Jacob Rodriguez, but the number of turnovers that he's created is really unbelievable. And it's not just being in the right spots and everything that he does from a leadership standpoint and tackling well. Truly, to me, what stands out most is his ability to create takeaways. That is a skill that is not, you don't luck your way into that. 7 forced fumbles and 3 interceptions. You're creating more than a takeaway a game by himself. And those are difference makers. And when you factor that into how off schedule they got Bear Bachmeier early in that game, you just got really no shot, especially with a young quarterback. But I thought, again, the biggest piece that stood out to me was getting BYU in obvious passing downs, getting them behind the sticks, which is what Texas Tech has done a fantastic job of all season.
Any other performances stand? Like I look at KU and Arizona, neither quarterback had gaudy numbers. You know, Rocco Beck's stat line was really bad, but Iowa State figures out a way to win the game, and he's been through so much this season. I guess when you think about resolve and resilience, which quarterback stands out to you from this weekend?
Yeah, I would go back to Rocco Becht, and he didn't play great in this game. I mean, 9 of 24 in that game. I think he had 3 turnovers. But for Iowa State, I would point out, like you mentioned, that they got themselves off the mat and figured out a way to get a win, because that was a team that September things looked great. And then, I mean, they've got losses to Colorado in the middle of, in Arizona, they figure out a way to get a win. But almost all of October, I actually don't know that they won a game in October. And for them to figure out a way to get a win over TCU. On the flip side of that, TCU is a team that I know their fans are extremely frustrated with. If you go back to the first month of the season, feeling like they had a real shot at this league, and now you look up and they're 6-3, and they haven't beat a ranked team since they beat Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl, and so this has been a drought certainly for the Horned Frogs. The other one that I would call out that probably goes a little under the radar, and that I don't think is going to end up being a bowl team just with who they have down the stretch. But credit to West Virginia and Scotty Fox, who he had some turnovers as well. But their play the last couple of weeks, beating Houston and then beating Colorado, and they've gotten it to 4-6. And I think right now, if you're Rich Rodriguez, this is more about the years to come and building for next season. What can you do to try to keep Scotty Fox? But that's a team that middle of the season looked like, man, this whole thing may crater this year, and they found some resolve and figured out a way to get a couple wins the last couple of weeks.
Last thing for me, Taylor, is the other freshman quarterback on the other sideline in that game would be Julian Lewis. This is obviously a lost season for Colorado, and what'd you make of his first start?
He actually, I thought, played better than Scotty Fox on the other side. Some of that production came late in that game.
Yeah.
I think Colorado, I will be curious to see if Coach Prime comes back, because this just looks like an experiment that I don't know what is the ceiling moving forward for Colorado, and are they going to be able to retain Julian Lewis? That's the biggest question to me, because he's obviously extremely talented, but I think Colorado continues to struggle. Their offensive line play has not been great all year. But between the two, I thought there were definitely flashes from Julian Lewis where you see, okay, this guy, why was he so highly touted? He's putting that on tape, and you're seeing why. Down the stretch, they've already played 10 games. They've only got 2 more left, and it's against Arizona State and then on the road at Kansas State. I don't see Colorado winning either one of those games. And so if you end up at 3-9, gosh, again, and I'm not the only one to ask this question, obviously, but does Coach Prime have it in him to come back and do this one more time? But a lot of that, I think, will come down to, can they retain Julian Lewis and get him to come back?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Really good stuff, Taylor. Monday morning quarterback each and every Monday. Taylor, we appreciate your time. What's your schedule this weekend?
We've got Inside the 12 again this week. Looking forward to another great show, and we'll react to the college football playoff rankings. What happens to BYU, and does Utah slide up with all the craziness behind them in the ACC? And then I'm back on the road with CBS again this week. I've got San Jose State and Nevada out of the Mountain West, and then we'll get into some action the next couple weeks after that.
Okay, Maction, here for it. Awesome stuff, Taylor. Appreciate your time, as always.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Taylor.
Taylor McCarg, Monday morning quarterback. You can catch him on Inside the 12. They'll be breaking down the college football playoff rankings. The second installment of those rankings come out tomorrow night. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Taman on the controls. We wrap up the program. Coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, it's the final whistle. Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio, one final time for this Monday edition. We come to you each Monday through Friday, brought to you by Modelo right here on the channel. Tune in is where you hear us. Big 12 Studios is where you see us. We just talked with Taylor McHargue, our Monday morning quarterback. He brought up an interesting topic with Deion Sanders in Colorado, and they've already been eliminated from bowl eligibility. They're 3-7. They have 2 games left. Here's what Deion Sanders said after the game in terms of his message to the fans.
We're better than this, and they deserve better than this. I want better than this. I feel like I coach better than this. I feel like we got players that are so much better than what the production that we're putting out. So then you got to identify the coaches. That's us, and that starts with me. Because I feel like we got the nucleus inside the locker room that we should be getting done. I don't think we played a team that's athletically and physically better than us. I really don't.
Says they haven't played a team athletically or physically better than them. Then why are they 3-7?
Yeah, it's a bold statement from a coach that's, been in it. I mean, I think if we were being honest with ourselves, we probably could have seen this season coming just based on the production loss alone and the difficulty of replacing that production. You couple that with the medical situation with Deion this entire offseason. I mean, we knew heading into Big 12 Media Days that something had gone wrong medically with Deion. And then obviously we found out that he had bladder cancer and had to have his bladder removed. So he was completely removed from the team during an important team-building part of the year in the offseason. And then he had to have another surgery in season. I'm not trying to make excuses for Deion, but when you couple the production loss with not being with the program throughout the entire summer and offseason, that's tough. That's really tough. And it's tough to be good. It's tough to be good in college football. It's almost impossible under the circumstances that have been around Colorado's football program this year. Taylor, I thought, made a great point about the biggest piece for Colorado in this offseason is figuring out a way to retain Julian Lewis. And maybe, the move already to take away play calling duties from Pat Shurmur. It's obvious that they're going to be looking for a new offensive coordinator this offseason. This is something, James, you and I talked about throughout the year. Like, man, they need a offensive coordinator that's a little bit more multiple. That isn't just, this is the offense we run, and we're going to run it like this. That is a little bit more forward-thinking in terms of molding an offense to fit the skill set of his players. And that's what you've got to convince Julian Lewis is going to happen. You're going to bring in the right offensive coordinator that will devise a strategy and a game plan that will make the best of what they have with Julian Lewis on offense.
I mean, what an exciting time of year in the Big 12 when you think about how many teams could potentially end up in the college football playoff, the championship race. How many teams are already bowl eligible? We've already matched last year's total at 9, probably going to end up with 11, maybe even a dozen teams from this conference being bowl eligible. And then all the stuff that's ramping up already for the offseason with Julian Lewis at Colorado. Kansas State, how do they replace Dylan Edwards for next year? What does that mean for Avery Johnson and Jace Brown? Who's going to be KU's quarterback next year post Jalen Daniels for the first time since 2018? Like, there's just already so many storylines. Who's the next coach at Oklahoma State? There are so many storylines already here in November past this season, and we still have a month left.
Yeah, and one of the major questions will be, what does Texas Tech do next year at quarterback? With Morton exercising all his eligibility, Will Hammond is going to miss time with the ACL tear. He's not going to be back at the start of the year.
Right.
So, you would have thought, okay, Morton moves on, and now it's a perfect transition to Will Hammond. Well, how much time will Hammond miss? I mean, I guess we'll figure out in this offseason if Hammond's going to be out for the majority of next year based on that ACL tear. So what do you do for Texas Tech in planning? So a lot of interesting future discussions for this show in terms of the offseason, and certainly a lot of them around Colorado and Kansas.
We will have Shahan Jayaraja from CBS on the program tomorrow. He's the one that really had the first wave of the Texas Tech boom story that he highlighted earlier this summer before the year even began. Now everybody's doing it. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling.
And you pointed out, by the way, and it's important to note when we talk about Texas Tech and the oil money, what do they say during the broadcast on ABC about Texas Tech's roster?
That Texas Tech doesn't even have a top 10 roster financially. there are at least 10 other schools in the country, and Texas Tech is ranked.
I mean, you would have thought that Texas Tech has the highest payroll
in the history of sports.
In the history of sports, based on some of the conversations around money they've spent. They've just spent money in order to be on equal footing with their counterparts that are spending more money than they are. Mm-hmm. So it just goes to show you not everything is exactly as you would appear to be. Because it's the easy, like, oh, yeah, Texas Tech's good, but they bought their roster. Like, okay, but who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Right.
Find me a college football playoff team in this year's college football playoff that did not buy their roster.
Everybody's buying their roster.
It's like, that coach is only good because he's got a bunch of talent. Because they're really talented. They've got a lot of good players. Like, yeah, show me a coach that has bad players. I'll show you a bad coach that doesn't win a lot of games. It's the same thing.
So we're excited to talk with Shahan Jayaraja on tomorrow's show. We've got producer Taman T-Chains over there. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Ari and I will be on the same page tomorrow in terms of our dress code because today he's dressed like business casual CrossFit on this Monday. I mean, can't get past the biceps. Also,
and you're dressed like a guy that works for a station that I can't get.
Oh, yeah, well played. Still, did you get your credit, though, your $20 credit?
Yeah.
YouTube TV credit?
Yeah, got my $20 credit.
They make it really difficult. You have to log in. You have to do all this stuff.
I'm shaking my head.
It's like a rebate at Menards. They don't exist.
Yeah, it's so, two conglomerates can quibble over money that only impacts the consumer. Once again, it's just the consumer that's losing here and the sports fan.
Mm-hmm. The fans.
And the fact that I've got the NFL Sunday ticket so I can't leave YouTube TV, so I've got to now get another platform in order to watch TV on so that I can get ESPN. It's a joke.
Yeah,
it's an absolute joke.
You're boxed in.
Yeah.
You're boxed in. You can't leave. You can't go anywhere. Also, you were talking earlier, your big redemption baseball championship ring season. We had a picture here on Big 12 Studios. We have another one of you and Aaron celebrating that if you're watching us on Big 12 Studios, Anthony will help me out with this. Ring season. There they are. Ari and at the game celebrating ring season. A championship.
Wow. That's
in
pretty
Chicago.
Good. That's pretty good AI. The only problem with this picture is that it doesn't have the ring in it. Where is the ring?
Hey, I forgot the ring.
Yeah.
Hashtag rings.
But yeah, if you look it up, you're looking at an AI version of the same picture that we showed earlier. And as my son's team, the Mets, beat the Cubs, so I had to show my support for the White Sox and anti-Cubs support by wearing a White Sox shirt to the game because I don't have any Mets gear. But huge win for the first grade Brentfield Mets. They got their championship rings, and well-deserved as they smoked. There's the real one. There's the ring.
There it is. That
Come
one
on, AI. It was
better.
The one thing you needed to get.
Yeah, that one looks way better.
Had one job.
Had one job, AI. That was to show the ring.
Have you heard of Stillwell's, the steakhouse?
Still Wales?
Still Wales? Stillwell's. Stillwell's?
I'm sorry. I wasn't making
Treadmill.
Treadmill. I was not making fun.
There are some words that I just can't say correctly.
Of your twang.
Stillwell's.
I literally thought you were saying Still Wales.
Not Stillwell's. Stillwell's. The steakhouse.
No.
It's pretty new. Went there this weekend. No big deal.
It's okay. Is it good?
It's phenomenal.
I thought you would have said it's really good. It's like a new steakhouse that opened.
It's a new steakhouse. It's legit. It's in some fancy hotel that just opened like less than a year ago downtown.
Nice, okay.
Felt way underdressed. Way underdressed.
What were you wearing?
Ordered my steak medium medium rare in my bank account. Said, well done, sir. Well done. I was wearing something similar to what you're wearing right now.
Wait, I'm confused. Did you order your steak medium well?
No, medium rare.
Okay, thank God. I almost just bashed my head against the wall. No shade thrown at anybody that orders their steak medium well.
Have you heard of Still Wales?
I haven't heard of Still Wales, but I did notice your Insta story on Saturday night that you were on a date night.
Thank you.
And Ari was upset about Kansas, and he was texting us, and clearly he didn't see your Instagram post because if he had, he would have known that you were busy with Lacey.
How would you describe my text thread on Saturday night?
Chaotic. Yeah. Went from really excited to pretty worked up. There were some gifts in there. To be honest, I don't know. I can't remember what I read and what I didn't read.
Producer Taman, would you have a good description of my texts on Saturday night following Kansas' loss to Arizona?
I think he was angry.
Angry, distraught, upset, not happy at all. There was...
Maybe graphic?
Yeah, graphic.
Yeah.
There was some profanity, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I was too busy. It's way too busy.
Him and
It's
Lacey.
steel whales.
Yeah, it's steel
I was
whales.
eating a medium whale steak. It's steel whales.
We set the over-under at 3.5 cowboy hats, and we crushed the over.
I will say, Dallas, Texas does steakhouses well.
Yes.
Stillwells.
Yeah. Got to check it out.
I will.
Check it out. We'll go sometime.
Lots of great steakhouses in Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm. It was a big event. Big event for us.
Big event. Big night.
Big event. It was a big
Over
night.
under $250 spent.
Under. There. For the night, over.
What else did you
I
do?
also went to a little club.
What?
Yeah, went clubbing.
This guy.
See,
I was having the time of my life. My wife was uncomfortable. She said, I feel like a grandmother here. I said, I'm feeling it.
James doesn't go out often, but when he goes out, he goes all in.
Taman knows.
Over under 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, way under.
Over under midnight.
Way
over under midnight.
Under.
Over
we
under
were home
11.
by 11. Once the club started, it's going to really pick up. We got to go. We got to go. We got to get out of here.
Like, James, when he's got, if he's hungry or got to get to bed, literally nothing will stop him. Patrick Mahomes could be sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and he's got to go to bed. Boom, he's gone.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes could have walked into that club, which it was a smaller venue, and we could have been sitting there chilling in a booth. I would have said, guys, we got to go.
Yeah, Patrick's
10:45.
Patrick, it's been great talking to you. I got to get home by 11.
Got an
so,
11 p.m. hard stop.
Yeah. So
we're out of here. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll do it again tomorrow. Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports will join us. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, producer Taman on the controls. You've been listening to Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Talk to you then.